now come to order. Could I have a roll call?
John Hutzko.
Steve Caswell.
Michael O'Brien.
Lori G.
John Cutler.
Craig Smith.
And I think we have one member who won't be here tonight, Pam, so I believe so. Is that right? Do you have your hat or something, right and left? Let's go with left tonight.
And the winner is...
I got two names.
Meanwhile, the
Survey
cameras are
says-
focusing on the two alternates.
Teresa.
Okay, great.
So Teresa, if you could come up and sit for Jason this evening, until such time as he returns to the board, thank you. And if everyone would join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have two upcoming meeting dates, one on September 1st and another on September 15th. And it looks like we have one set of minutes to approve, but I don't think I have attendance yet for the July meeting in the folder. So we'll hold the July 21 minutes over until next meeting. Okay. So the first item on our agenda tonight is an amended resolution for Hopewell Gas Station, amended site plan on Route 82. Before we get started with that, I just want to let folks know we've got a few decisions on tonight. And unfortunately, our town attorney wasn't able to prepare the resolutions and wasn't able to be here this evening. So it was unexpected, and what we'll do, if it's all right, we'll create a motion with all of the subject twos, and then at our next meeting, we'll ratify a written resolution and provide you with a copy. But if that works, then we can at least get you finished tonight. We'll do that with our other applications as well.
That's perfect.
Okay. So Hopewell Gas, have you made any changes to the plan since we last saw it?
The only changes that we've made were based upon conversations that Michelle and I had earlier this week, and I think she's outlined that in front of to the board in her August 6 correspondence. So basically, it's this clarification to the banked parking areas. We're going to refer to them now as land banked. We're going to have a different denotation on the plan to mark those spots, so the building department can have clarification if they ever have to be installed. They know where they go. We remove the spot in front of the dumpster. So now we have 24 spaces required, 24 have been provided. And then we improved or clarified, we're going to have a no parking striping in front of the building along the sidewalk.
Okay.
Is that, I'm sorry, that includes still two double parking for the valet parking?
There are two parking spots that will be shown there. They're going to be considered land banked. So at a future date, if they are required, that would be a last resort that they could be put there. But for now on, for the time being, until such time, we're just going to, we're going to stripe that area with crosshatch striping, and we'll put a detail on the plan for that. So those are the only changes we've made. It's based on the conversation that Michelle and I had.
And are those changes reflected on that plan?
They're reflected on tonight's plan. The board hasn't officially seen that, but whatever is listed
We'll
in
make
the
a
comment letter.
subject to as far as the land banking
Right.
then. So you've land banked the two in the front of the store and the three in front of the stacked parking,
Yep, and we removed the one in front of the dumpster
completely removed.
completely.
Just one comment, if I could, please. I've noticed, and I don't know if it's an employee, a customer, or a worker, but I've noticed that car wanting to pull like straight up to the store, where you would have the parallel space. It pulls like straight up to it because there's actually enough room. So maybe my concern is if you don't stripe it, do cars just try to pull up to it? Even though there's no striping at all. I've seen,
I think what Michelle
On a
and I
couple
spoke about is
occasions.
we're actually going to stripe that and actually put on the pavement, no parking
okay,
in front of the store until such time
that
we
whole
need it.
face thing, you
Whole
won't do the
face.
whole face. Okay, that should take care of it.
Any other changes? Okay. Any questions or comments by board members? And then I can go through the review subject twos. Okay, and let's see. Okay, so the first one was specifically the approval is going to be to amend the use to include a deli counter with a grill and fryer area. The gas station, I understand, will be open for 24 hours, and so there'll be a register inside the convenience store as well, open for 24 hours, but the deli counter will be open from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m., is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Scott, I don't know if there's any other building changes, but I've got the exhaust fan is to be moved from the back wall to the roof.
Has that been done?
I don't know if it's been done yet. I think it was subject to approval by the board.
Okay, yes, that would be a condition through the roof.
Okay. Are there any other changes to the building? That was the only one that I had.
We had a comment about, I think, the grease container.
Yeah, we had the grease, but I don't know, you typically handle that at the building permit process?
I'd
Or you
like-
have them put it on the plan now?
Yeah.
We actually did both. We put that on the plan on this amended plan set that's before the board tonight. It's an internal grease trap within the building. And we put details on the plan. It's actually installed right now.
So.
And just, okay, and a bit of housekeeping. I know the AC units are now within that easement. There's a note on the plan that it's at the owner's responsibility to relocate them in the event we have to do any repairs to the sewer. There's a note to that effect, okay?
It should be, it's in the site-specific notes.
Okay.
So Scott, as far as the condition, it's install an internal grease trap within the building, and then was there?
No. Well, they're going to have an under sink grease trap, right? And then you're going to have like a storage or a staging
Bin for
bin.
grease.
Yeah,
Right.
on the exterior.
Right. Rural Carding usually provides an external container to dump the grease from the trap inside the building behind the refuse enclosure. It'll be
So that'll
within
be
that
in the
contained area.
refuse enclosure?
Correct.
Okay. And is your present refuse enclosure large enough to include that? Is it on, so you'll show it on the plan that it's just going to be included, or a note or something on the plan?
What I did is I put a note in the plan as per the specific refuse provider in the area, whatever enclosure they provide the applicant.
And I'm sorry, Brian, what's it called? It's a
As a grease
Grease bin.
containment bin.
grease container, okay. Okay. Scott, anything else from the building? Okay. So just,
Well, I'm sorry, there was just one thing for final CO. I think we're supposed to get a cert that the septic tank was properly abandoned.
Correct.
Some housekeeping, but I think we need that as well.
Right.
so I'm sorry, you want that as a condition?
He's just got to provide a certification that the septic tank was properly abandoned
Is that for the signing of the plan or for the CO?
for a CO.
Do you want it in the resolution? I don't care, do you want it in the resolution, or?
Well, it was something that in the field, we had to kind of make an adjustment. So I think it'd be a good note on the plan.
All right, so prior to final certificate of occupancy, say it again, I'm sorry, say
A certification that the septic tank was properly abandoned.
abandoned, okay. I'm sorry, bear with me. Shall be provided to the building department?
Yes.
Brian, you either have that now, or that's,
We've actually already done that. We've made the transition from on-site disposal to central sewer, and that certification is one of the punch list items.
okay, all right. So let me make sure, the parking area will be striped, leaving 2 spaces in front of the doors and 3 spaces in front of the fill area as land banked. The spot in front of the refuse area will be removed from the plan. And then I think you also add, and I'll just make it a separate bullet point, a no parking zone will be shown in front of the entire front of the building as of right now.
Correct.
I'm sorry for this, we'll get through it shortly. All right, and then the last one I have is operation of a chain store or franchise other than a gas station shall constitute a change of use that will require approval by the planning board, and that's one that will survive the resolution. So just, you have a deli use in there, but it's not a McDonald's or a, another type
Understood.
of chain. Okay.
I have one other.
Oh, thanks,
Just,
Michelle.
just that, and you may have already put a note to this on the plan, but just that the landscaping be installed as approved on the original plan wherever possible. Because I think the only change that we were going to make to the landscaping, the original approved landscaping, was along the side where the sidewalk was altered.
Okay. Do we need anything approved for that?
I don't think so. I think we already have the approved landscaping. We just want to make sure that the front landscaping, because we actually got a use and occupancy permit to establish landscaping there that had previously not been established. And so I want to make sure that that remains.
So landscaping to be installed
As
according to
per-
the original plan?
Exactly.
Yes,
Okay, and that's it?
yes,
And
except,
that's-
except in the area of the sidewalk.
Except in the area of the sidewalk, okay.
That's fine. We've made that
concern?
transition. We've kept the quantities the same. We just repositioned them slightly as far as the use and occupancy permit through DOT. Where that sidewalk was located was all internal. It wasn't within that permitted area with DOT, so we didn't have to.
Okay. Okay. And you showed the sidewalk moved over to the, towards the building,
Towards the building.
between the stacked parking and the beginning of the other parking row?
Correct. It makes a transition into the parcel, and then it dumps into that hatched area.
Great, okay. Okay. Any other items, Brendan, do we have?
No.
Oh, and I'm sorry, there'll be something that says subject to any modifications set forth in the professionals' letters, and we'll add the actual dates and things like that if you guys have any open items in the letters. And anything from Morris?
Nope, we're all set.
Okay, Akara?
No.
And Brandon, you said you're fine. Any other comments from planning board members? Okay, so Mike, can I trouble you to just read through the bullet points and offer us a motion to approve the Hopewell Gas Station site plan, subject to creation of a formal resolution that will ratify next meeting with all the normal whereases and things like that, but then with this bullet point and these.
Sure. Okay.
Thank you.
I'm offering a resolution, as Lori described, for all, subject to the modifications set forth in the professionals' letters, subject to the following. One, amendment to allow deli use with a counter, grill, and fryer area. Two, the gas station will be open 24 hours, and the deli counter will be open from 6 a.m. till 3 p.m. The exhaust fan will be moved from the back wall to the roof. The parking area will be striped, leaving 2 spaces in front of the doors and 3 spaces in front of the fill area as land banked. The spot in front of the refuse area will be removed from the plan. Operation of a chain store or franchise other than a gas station shall constitute change of use and will require approval by the planning board. Next, install an internal grease trap within the building in the undersink and provide an area within the refuse area to include grease containment bin. Next, prior to final CO, certification that the septic tank was properly abandoned and shall be provided to the building department. Next, no parking zone will be shown across the front of the building. And lastly, landscaping to be installed according to the original plan, except in the area of the sidewalk.
Okay,
You did
so I
well
have
with that.
a,
Your notes are a lot better than mine, but
any
Second.
changes,
Oh,
any
was-
changes or
sorry.
amendments? Okay, then I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
And votes as follows. Teresa?
Yes.
Craig?
Yes.
John Cutler?
Aye.
Mike?
aye.
Steve?
Aye.
John Hudsko?
Aye.
And myself, aye. The motion carries. Thank you. I apologize for the time and the not having the document, but you'll have it by the end of our next meeting.
Which I don't think you need to attend.
No, oh, yes,
Yeah,
I'm
you
sorry.
don't need-
You don't need to be here. We'll just ratify it and you'll get a copy.
I mean, you're welcome to come, but
You're always welcome to come to the meeting. All right, thank you. The next item on our agenda is a decision for Kali Kaplan realignment on Cross Road. You heard what I mentioned for the last application, same thing. Unfortunately, we don't have the formal resolution.
That's
So
fine.
if it's all right with you, we'll just work through the subject twos, and then we'll ratify a final resolution and provide you a copy after our next meeting.
That's fine.
So I have a couple for this one. The first is same as all the others. It would be subject to the modifications set forth in the professionals' letters. And then Michelle, do you want to run through the next three that you
Sure.
had there? And
I actually didn't print it. Do you want me to?
Oh, no, that's fine, then I'll run through it. So the proposed subject tos, again, professionals' letters, then next one is any further subdivision of this parcel would constitute the creation of a sixth lot. Therefore, all provisions applying to major subdivisions would apply to the subdivision of the sixth lot and all other proposed subdivisions of the original tract of land at that time and subsequently. So
Fine.
it's just because you're going to have one very large lot that would still be able to be subdivided again. And then the second one was, third one, sorry, per section 164-3, no parcel may be subdivided more than once as a minor subdivision in a 5-year period, and each shall be subject to the provisions of section 272A of the town law. And Michelle.
Which basically means you can't subdivide it for another 5 years.
Understood. That's fine.
Okay. And then the last would be any further subdivision would be subject to a seeker review.
Yep.
The time proposed. And so I'm sorry, I should have started with, does anybody have any questions or comments with the plan, or has there been any changes since
Exactly
last
the
time?
same plan
Exactly the
we
same.
saw last month.
Okay. Questions, comments? Okay. So Mike, if I can trouble you again. I'm
Making a
sorry.
resolution for Collie Kaplan realignment. Actually, this is Hobogas.
Right here, I'm sorry. It's
Oh,
this one.
this one,
It's on the
okay.
top. Yep, sorry.
First one is subject to all modifications set forth in the professional letters. The second one is any further subdivision of this parcel would constitute the creation of a sixth lot. Therefore, all provisions applying to major subdivisions would apply to the subdivision of the sixth lot and all other proposed subdivisions of the original tract of land at that time and subsequently. 3, per section 164-3, no parcel may be divided more than once as a minor subdivision in the 5-year period, and each shall be subject to the provisions of section 272A of the town law. Lastly, 4th, any further subdivision would be subject to a seeker review.
Okay. Any other changes, comments? Okay, so I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second by John. Votes as follows. Teresa?
Aye.
Aye. Craig?
Aye.
John Cutler?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
John Hutzko?
Aye.
And myself, aye. Motion carries. Thank you, and I apologize. We'll have a document to you after our meeting on September 1st.
And we don't have to show up. right?
You do not need to show up, yes, correct. Thank you again.
But like Brian, you'd be welcome to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, the next item on our agenda is a decision for Brady's Power Equipment amended site plan on Route 216.
Hi, can I have it on a USB?
Sure.
You want me to put it on for you?
So I also have 5 hard copies.
Okay.
Do you want to see these hard copies?
Sure, you can bring
So
them.
the only change to the site plan was showing the location of the disconnect.
Okay, all right, and that was required by the Fire Advisory Board?
Right. And
Okay.
that's shown here in the corner.
We'll have you show it to us when it comes up on the map too, so thank you. And can you just make sure at least one of those gets down to the...
Yeah, can-
Small one.
So aside from showing the disconnect area, were there any other changes to the plan while we're pulling it up?
No other changes to the plan. And then on a separate map, you would ask to show us to provide proof that it's not in a floodplain, which I show that on a separate map, but
A separate page or an inside or
a
something?
separate page,
Okay.
yeah. It's actually a different attachment though, but on this map, on the front corner of the building is where the location of the disconnect will be, and that's noted on that map.
Okay.
Is there anything else that you want me to show here?
I don't, I didn't have anything else in my notes. I know that was I think the Fire Advisory Board recommendation. Michelle, I know we've got a couple of conditions here, but anything else that we needed to change?
Yeah,
on?
I just had a question. Are you removing a lot of the trees that were in that sort of buffer between the lot?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So similar to our last two applications, I apologize, we don't have the formal written resolution tonight,
That's
but
okay.
we'll ratify what we make the motion for this evening. You don't need to return on September 1st, but
Okay.
we'll provide you the copy of the final resolution after September 1.
Okay, great.
So I do have a couple of conditions for the resolution, so I'll walk through them now. If you have any questions, just let me know, and then if
Okay.
anybody else has any other changes, let me know. The first will be, as always, subject to any modifications set forth in our professionals' letters, and it sounds like you may have already addressed the one major one. The second will be the proposed solar array will be considered an ancillary to the existing use of the property. And what that means is ancillary is where a part of the land is used for the purpose which is subordinate to the purpose for which another part is used. Or in other words, the dominant use of the property is as the Brady's, and so this is supporting that use as opposed to a totally separate, like, new tenant type use. We don't have to read that. The second item was the proposed solar energy system meets all the setbacks of the B1 district. I think we confirmed that last time. The third is that the proposed solar energy system will provide power for the principal use of the property where the facility is located and not primarily for the generation of power for sale or resale to the utilities or commercial users. And I think you would provide us with the proof that you're not generating more than the 110% that is typical that New York State requires.
Yeah, and I have copies of the electric bills as
Okay,
proof.
great. We want to make sure you get a copy of those into the planning office. If there are copies we can keep, you can give them right to our planning board secretary now, that's fine. Or if you need to make copies of them, you can drop them off.
Okay, we can do that.
Okay. It'll just be, your plan won't be signed until we get the copies.
Okay.
And then if the last bullet point that I have is if the solar energy system ceases to perform its originally intended function for more than 12 consecutive months, the property owner shall remove the facility no later than 90 days after the end of the 12-month period.
Okay.
So just if you stop using it, we'd want you to remove it, similar to if there was, something else installed that wasn't in use, we'd want it to be maintained correctly.
Okay.
Or removed. Any other changes or, okay. And Michelle,
Can we just confirm, what's the actual height of the panel? Because I know it was at around 9 feet, I think is what was said at one point. Is that still the height?
Yes.
Okay.
And Michelle, I think just, again, for our record, and I'm not sure how it will be reflected in the final resolution, but we would just make clear that while we're considering this the kind of the support, not a shed structure, but a support structure on the property, and so we looked at setbacks and things like that based on that.
Right, we defined it as a structure, essentially.
Okay.
So
Accessory structure.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to meet all of the bulk requirements that an accessory structure would meet, which you do, including the height, which is a maximum of 10 feet.
Okay.
So he's
All
under
right.
that.
And we're under 10 or under?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other changes or comments? Okay, then Mike, if I can trouble you one more time, this one and then these in the middle.
Okay.
Thank you.
Resolution for the Brady's Power Equipment. Again, condition number 1 is subject to the modifications set forth in the professional letters. 2, the proposed solar array is considered an ancillary use to the existing use. 3, the proposed solar energy system meets all the setbacks for the B1 district. 4, the proposed solar energy system will provide power for the principal use of the property where the facility is located and not primarily for the generation of power for sale or resale to utilities or commercial users. And lastly, if the solar energy system ceases to perform its originally intended function for more than 12 consecutive months, the property owner shall remove the facility no later than 90 days after the end of the 12-month period.
So I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second by Teresa, and then votes as follows. Teresa?
Aye.
Craig?
Aye.
John Cutler?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Tom Hutzko?
Aye.
And myself, aye. The motion carries, and again, we'll get you the final copy after our meeting on September 1st.
Okay.
I apologize for not having that this evening.
That's okay. And the electric bills, who do I need to get them to, the copies?
You can bring them right into the planning office when you come in. It's the door straight down the hallway right here.
And do you want, like, the bills show a graph on them of the previous uses? Do you actually need a copy of each month? Or how would you prefer to see that?
As long as we can see the previous 12 months and quantify it, and you've given us what the solar panel you're installing will produce, then we're good to, we can make the comparison and make sure it's within the 110%.
Okay. And excuse my ignorance here, but what is the procedure for, so that at the next meeting we'll get our document, the resolution, is that what you call it?
Right, you don't have to come to the next meeting.
Okay.
You're now approved So
Okay.
you have conditions from the resolution that you need
Right.
to meet, and once you meet those, you would ask us to be able to file your map. And there's a process we go through to confirm that you've met all your conditions. But you wouldn't need to appear in front of us
Okay.
again. You're all set. for-
And so then the permit is issued then, once we meet the condition?
It's an approval, you have an
Yeah,
approval.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, it's understood, thanks.
Okay, great. And you can call our planning office if you have any other questions as you go through the conditions and things like that.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. Yes. Do we have an extra copy of the plan? You got it? Okay, thank you.
Do you want, Pam, do you want an electronic copy of it? Because I can save it to the desktop. Can you save that? Save that to the desktop so she can have a copy of it.
Bear with us, folks.
So then you can have a electronic version.
You can stop.
And I think you said there were 2 maps, so if we can have both,
Yeah,
both
just-
pages or both maps, that would be. Okay, the next item on our agenda is a public hearing for Sibelico's amended site plan. Pam, we have everything we need to open the public hearing? Great. So can I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
While we're waiting for our PDF, you want to hear a joke?
Sure.
Sure.
2 Irish guys are in a bar. That's as far as I'll go.
But horse walks into a bar, bartender says, "Hey, why the long face?"
It's good you'd have the microphone.
Are we ready yet?
I was going to say.
This is taking forever.
We may need to put the Jeopardy music on. The mics.
Okay, good evening. Mark Day, Day Engineering, representing Sibelico. Tonight, what we're showing you is a plan that is basically a modification of the plan that we'd submitted for tonight. The changes that we're representing here this evening are based on comments that the applicant had gotten from the consultants.
If you want, you can just give us the overview, because this is the
Okay.
first public hearing, the opening of the public hearing. So if you want to just give the overview
Okay.
of what's being proposed and,
Very well. This is the property, this is Hillside Lake Road right here, Van Wyck High School across the street. This is Route 376. This is the Dogwood Knolls subdivision. This is a vacant area of property that has been in Sibelico ownership for a number of years. This is the existing Sibelico retail and also the greenhouses out here. They have recently purchased this piece of property here to the south. What we're proposing is this building right here, which is a 70,000 square foot greenhouse. And we are also proposing, although not under this application, future solar arrays that would be installed here. Right now, it's my understanding we're not putting these in right now. And we're leaving areas open for further development around the site. Right now, we're about 75 feet off of the corner. The corner of the building is 75 feet off the edge of pavement. And then the balance of the building is rotated. Originally, we were back here. We did move it up quite a bit. This parcel here is in the ag district. This parcel is pending ag approval. We are showing proposed parking here, and we have a gate proposed here. We have a gate proposed here, and we're proposing a fence to go around the facility. The site will
a
be...
single fence that goes around the greenhouse and the,
Yeah, it basically
Solar.
surrounds the site, and pardon me, I wasn't trying to show it here, but it goes basically around this area here to enclose that area.
Mark?
Yes.
Why? Why does this have to be fenced?
I think it's mainly for just to maintain, it's a deer fence to keep,
But forgive me, but I mean, The deer aren't going to get in the greenhouse, are they?
Well, I think they're also using this area here for cultivating it. So they're going to be
Okay.
putting product in that area.
Okay.
The site, the actual building is made in Europe. I think we talked about it last meeting. I don't know, can you pull that
Can you
up,
bring the
Matt?
picture?
Yeah, can you find that photo? These are, the photos we're going to show you are basically from, I believe, Holland. Somewhere over in Europe. And this is a very state-of-the-art greenhouse. They do this in Europe. No, that's not it.
Odd-looking greenhouse.
No.
Greenhouse photos.
I think it's a greenhouse photo right there. You know, it says greenhouse photo. There you go. This is basically a photo representation of what this would look like. Obviously all glass. It has the multiple peaks. The system is fully enclosed, meaning it catches all its stormwater. All the stormwater off this building will be contained underground and be reused inside the structure. Obviously another angle. The system will be shipped here and constructed on a conventional foundation. And generally that's what it looks like.
Is that showing the curtains that would come down here at?
Yeah, I don't think you can see them. Is there another photo in there, Matt, or is that the only one?
It looks like the curtains are down to me. Are they on the outside of the building? They're inside, okay.
Yeah.
It's just-
So at night, yeah, I think we only have the other one. Yeah, I think these are rolled up too.
Okay.
At night, they roll up, and it's a function of heat and obviously lighting. But the system is basically self-contained. We're proposing to basically provide, obviously, a concrete foundation, and then the inside, I think we're going to do gravel, and we're going to put underground storage inside, so everything will basically be self-contained inside the footing foundation.
Mike, you mentioned at night,
Go to site plan.
sorry, I said Mike, I meant to say Mark, excuse me. Mark,
Sorry.
you mentioned at night, is the greenhouse going to be lit at night?
It's lit, but that's when the curtains come in. They're not lit, they're not overly lit, I should say. It's a glow, if you will.
Okay, so the curtains would be down in the evening and then if the lights are on, so. Okay,
Right.
are they impervious to light or are they more like screens? And I'm sorry, we just want to, because it's a public hearing, I want to make sure you come up to the mic, sorry.
I don't want to say 100%, they sell it as 100% blackout, but,
Okay.
still where
There's
the
spaces
seams are, there'll be a
between.
little bit, but, from the road, you won't see
Okay,
nearly
and what
any
about
light.
out through the top? Or any
That'll
glare?
have a screen across the top, not 100%, I think it's like a 50%,
Okay.
so it'll dampen anything, but
Okay.
nobody's gonna be, except the birds will be above.
Okay, and what about lighting around the exterior? Are you planning any exterior lights?
No, I don't think so. Actually, that would, some crops, you actually need to keep all the lights off, so it's probably not. Maybe some just as, if someone needs to get in there in the middle of the night in a snowstorm.
motion sensor or
Yeah,
something.
something
Okay.
like that.
Okay.
Do you mean site lighting, or is that what you're talking about, site lighting?
I meant around the building, if somebody's walking around the
Okay.
outside of the building.
I mean, if people are driving by, is this thing going to seem like it glows?
No, you would hardly know that the lights are on inside.
Okay. So it's going to be like a normal business with one or two lights? Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Question.
Sure.
I know that the sweet spot for this is producing tomatoes in the winter. I mean, what about the other seasons? I mean, is this going 365 days a year?
I think that's the goal.
Yes, it is really for year-round production. We're mostly focused for winter production when, there really is no local market for fresh produce.
You may have remembered, probably these greenhouses here are basically early start.
Yeah.
They get an early start so they can get, a good foothold for spring. what they want to do, they can't use these in the winter because obviously they're basically covered, they're plastic. So this will now allow them to grow pretty much year round.
Okay, thank you.
So, Mark, if you want to take us through the solar panels that you have, and it looks like you have more of the solar arrays up on the roof now.
On the ground, just.
Yeah, right now, our solar arrays right now are on the roof of this right now. These are proposed future, but right now they're not part of the plan.
Oh, okay. All right.
Why?
So you fit everything on the roof?
Yeah, I can't say I was at the meeting, I don't know why. We originally had them, but now what I think we're doing is we're proposing them on the roof of this building.
Not to be a stickler, but I mean, does that mean you're rethinking that, or you just want to get going on this?
Well, really, it was, we wanted to get them off the road because originally, we had them lined across 376.
Right.
And so we sort of shifted everything around, hoping to use the space behind there still for cultivation, and then if we fill it with solar panels, then we lose cultivation. So we've sort of been weighing the options of the best way really to use the land.
Okay, so it's not like that this is a bureaucratic bottleneck and you just want to cut and run with what you got. This thing may disappear of its own accord.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it looks like you're showing now 5 arrays on the ground, and I'm assuming the darker lines of
Yeah,
the
up
building
here.
are the solar panels up on the roof?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So the arrays on the ground are proposed or a future installation, still the same?
Same number, same, everything's still the same, and I think we had presented to the board the electrical demand versus what we would be proposing, and we were within or we're below, I should say, the demand requirements, 110, I think.
Okay, so I know we're focused this evening, and I'll when we switch over right before public comment, I'll talk more about this as being an ag overlay and all, but with the solar panels on the roof, is that the same number of panels as what you had originally proposed?
I believe it is, yes.
Okay, so that's great, okay. Is that just because the building's in a different location, you have different sun now, or is it a different design to the building?
Yeah, it had to do with it. Well, we always wanted to integrate as many as we could into the roof because we take the glass out and put the panel in. So,
Right.
We can utilize that space rather than have it on the ground. And that was, originally was to get as many off 376 as we could.
Right.
The demand is, the numbers work out just enough where, we think the energy usage will be sufficient with what's on the roof. I mean,
Okay.
to cover everything, the existing business and the new business, the ones there on the ground, but we're sort of debating whether or not,
Okay.
it's really necessary to have them on the ground,
Okay.
or if it would be better for us to just use it for cultivation.
Okay. Okay. I think I had a chance to look at this earlier, and I think the only question I really had, Mark, is you have parking right up against the property line.
Right.
And I wondered why you didn't put up against the greenhouse, so it's more internal to your site and is away from the neighbors. Because it looked like you had to take out some trees to be able to put that in.
Well, it's a thought, I mean, we could move it. Not sure why.
I think that was, the parking was put there when the greenhouse was in the back, so it was sort of oriented better with where the greenhouse is.
I mean, we could move it if this works, we could put it here.
You don't want to have the
Oh,
cars
true,
parked right
true.
up against the building either.
Okay.
It is glass, if someone decides to hit the accelerator instead of the brake, or, something like
Okay.
that.
That never happens.
A lot of frozen tomatoes.
Well, I was going to say, you don't necessarily have to do it in a strip. You could do it as a, perpendicular to the road, two rows as opposed to a single straight road. It's
We can look at that.
parallel to the road.
That's certainly something we can look at.
Okay. All right. Anything else with regard, and I'm sorry, I think you said 70,000 square feet. Just tell me the dimension of the building, just to get a feel for how big it is.
I think it's about 250 by 250.
250 feet by 250.
Roughly. I don't know the exact.
Yeah.
I think it's like two.
I don't know, it was a metric when we got it.
Yeah.
You didn't have the ruler that does the
No, I was
little?
like,
Okay.
send it back, get this right, send it back up.
All right. Other questions or comments from board members?
I was wondering about the fence before, but I think, Now, I understand, it sounded from the verbiage sent out that you were, fencing in the greenhouse. And
No, it's
that's
really
what-
for the outdoor
it's
cultivation.
The
that we
outdoor
want.
cultivation, that makes sense.
Yeah.
The greenhouse, not so much.
No, it goes to the corner of the greenhouse.
Yeah.
The greenhouse creates one side of the fence, if you will.
So Mark, I think the other thing we had talked about though is if you did install the solar arrays on the ground, you'd want to also have a fence around those, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's not shown right now, it sounded like, but if you were going to install them, you'd place a fence
Yeah,
around them?
absolutely.
Right.
Same type of fence as your fencing?
Correct.
I'm assuming-
Yeah, we're actually showing a border around.
Oh, you are,
it.
okay, all right,
So there is a fence that we're proposing.
okay. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that. And you have a slight encroachment into the typical 100-foot setback, but again, this is an ag use, so, Michelle, I'm gonna, sorry, can I interrupt you for a second? If you don't mind, just give us a little bit of an overview on what the ag overlay means for this property and the fact that we're not actually going through a seeker review right now, but we're just having the public hearing with regard to the building. I just want to make sure everybody understands this is a little bit of a unique application because this is a farm in our town, and so it has some special things that we do for it.
So it's classified in an agricultural district, and what that basically means is that it gives the owner of a farm, an operator of a farm, the ability to operate and do things that say, basically it allows you to be exempt from some zoning laws, essentially. And it's not, you're not completely exempt. In other words, the town can still apply reasonable restrictions to what you can do on your land. But if the applicant felt that the town was doing something that would hinder or hamper their operations, their agricultural operations, they could apply to the New York State Ag Board and say, we feel these are restrictions that will affect our operations and will hinder our ability to actually work the land. So they can, and then the state can make a decision on whether or not they agree with that and hand the decision down. And typically the state will agree with the operator of a farm because they're trying to obviously keep farms in operation. And farms typically were in operation before the other uses that happened in a town. So it's sort of, in other words, it's sort of recognizing that farms are important to the region and that you need to allow them to have certain allowances that you wouldn't. For instance, a silo may be a lot taller than what is currently allowed under zoning for height. But that's something that is needed for a farm operation. So in order to have a farm operation that works, you need to allow a taller building than would typically be allowed.
And so in this particular case, this is a greenhouse that's going to allow you to have, don't correct me if I say this incorrectly, it's going to allow you to grow year-round and specifically grow organic crops and provide vegetable to a market that's not currently served in this area. Correct. Okay. All right. I ask for questions or comments from board members. I guess, Brendan, any concern with the layout or from a traffic perspective?
I think I would echo your comment about the parking to try to find a spot a little bit more internal to the site. I do see the site distance at the driveway. I know it's an existing driveway, but it looks like you're going to modify it to some extent. So any modification to that driveway on the state highway would require to get a permit from the DOT to do that. And then I think at one of the previous meetings I did mention, I know there's adequate site distance along the road, but just to make sure you ensure that the placement of that fence and the fence post isn't going to obscure the site distance coming out of that driveway. And I think the location of it is good opposite the cul-de-sac road on the other side.
Michelle, anything from AKRA?
No, I think the only thing that we're looking at now is as the planning board, ask the planning board to do is just look at the application in light of, public health and safety and make sure that whatever's proposed would not affect public health or safety, and also weighing an undue burden for farm operations. So that's sort of your job, to look at this and say, is this operation causing any trouble to public health or safety or creating any major significant potential impact versus burdening a farm operation.
And that's again because we're in the agricultural district. It's not a formal seeker review. It's a different type of review that we're completing.
Correct, because they are a agricultural farm practice, they are exempt under seeker.
Okay. And how about from Morris, anything?
I guess the only thing that we'll need to see is just an erosion and sediment control plan, Mark, for the greenhouse. And then the other thing that Joe had mentioned about, I don't think that we knew that there was going to be a total stormwater containment, system. So there was a concern about any increase in stormwater runoff from the greenhouses. So if you could just show the underground stormwater containment system.
Okay. That's going to be designed for what year storm? You say it's going to capture everything, but you're not talking about 100 storm.
Well, we're probably not going to do 100, but I would think up to probably including a 25. We're going to run the numbers. If it can hold 100, I mean, the more water, the merrier. So, unfortunately, we get those.
You're going to put a pipe
Well, it's
system in there?
expensive
Or
to build, though,
what are you going to put
It's
in
actually
there?
not that bad. It's a fiberglass tank. So, and they do it all the time in Europe, so. They're the ones who suggested it.
Yeah, in Europe, they're actually required to capture all of their runoff. So it is regular practice.
And the containment tank is part of the building itself, as you
It would be underground.
Under the
but I mean,
footprint.
it's typical of the buildings that you saw
Yes.
in Europe, so they do the same thing,
Yep.
same type of containment system.
Yep. Sometimes they use a pond, but, they often they do the tanks underground.
Okay.
Is there a slab over that, or it's just
I think it's just going to be gravel. It's just a
gravel
walking.
right on top of the?
Right.
Yep.
And then, Mark, the only other thing was you were talking about fence before, but I don't see, the only fence that I see on the plan is you have a proposed fence around where the solar array is going to be. Did you have
Did we
it on?
eliminate the fence around there? There was one, Pete, there was one around, as I pointed out. There was one that went around this site, but I gotta be honest with you.
Just go look at it, because
All
this
right.
plan, the latest revision is dated August 10th, and I can't seem to find a
Okay.
fence on
It
it.
may have been eliminated.
That's it.
Okay. Scott, anything from your end? Okay.
Nothing else.
All right, so what I'd like to do now, we're in public hearing. Again, just knowing that this, with the explanation that Michelle gave and knowing we're looking specifically at the building, for two things, are there any public health or safety issues, and are there any significant impacts that we can mitigate without hampering the farming operation at the site? So we'll open up for public comment now. If anyone would like to offer public comment on the application, we have a sign-in sheet up here. We just ask that you sign in so we can capture your names for our minutes. So if you want to come up, you can come on up, and we'll just have you sign in at the desk, and then you can come right to the podium.
Hey, the only question I have is that...
And if we can just get your name for a minute.
Oh, okay. My name is Peter Pavone. You have a recovery system for the water. What if
You can
we-
address it to us. We'll have them answer it for you.
Oh, okay. Is that the only source of the water for that house, or are you going to need a supplement source, like from an existing well, or are you going to have to drill other wells? Okay, that's my question.
Okay, great. So, Mark, is that something you can answer, or do you?
We do plan on putting in another well.
Okay.
Just really, the main source of irrigation I want to use as the rainwater, and then any supplement that I would need after that would come from a well water. We were planning to drill a new well, just to serve that greenhouse in particular and not use one of the existing wells on the property.
Would you envision that that well would draw roughly the same amount of water or more than what you would have used if you had normal crops that you had to water or something like that?
I think it would be about the same.
About the same.
Yeah. Actually, this type of greenhouse uses less water than traditional conventional farming. So, it's much more water efficient.
So you're offsetting a little bit with the stormwater, or hopefully a lot with the stormwater, but
Hopefully.
then you'll have the well. Okay.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Did you have any follow-up questions, sir? Okay. Anyone else who'd like to offer comment? All right, come on up. We'll just have you, if you don't mind, signing in at the desk, and then you can come right to the podium.
Good evening, my name is John DeRusso. I actually live the existing home with the driveway. I live right across the street on Patricia Court.
Is that in the Dogwood Knolls?
No, it's actually the road just past Dogwood Knolls. There's an existing structure there, the
Right.
driveway that's there. I'm exactly, right across
Okay.
the street. My question is this going to be for local markets as it is now, or is it going to be distributed through markets throughout the community? Because as it stands now, traffic at the Sabelicos across from Van Wyck can be challenging at times. So my concern is the structure being so close to the roadway, having tractor trailers coming in and out. I mean, that's basically one of the concerns. I have so many other questions, but I don't think it's appropriate for the forum.
Let me just ask, when you say that the traffic is challenging, is it tied to the school?
Well,
Or is it,
the Sabelicos is very busy, so driving on Lake Walton Road, it can be challenging getting out and getting into Sabelicos at times.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if this new egress is going to alleviate that stress from the main entrance, or if it's going to be used for commercial trucks coming through with produce. I just don't know what their plans are in
Okay.
terms of marketing their products.
Okay. All right. You said you had other questions. You're welcome to ask
I have
other
so many
questions.
questions, though, but I don't.
You're welcome to ask.
Why is the building, because I know you guys are clearing land now, you cleared a bunch of trees.
Right.
What was the reason to bring the structure closer to the roadway?
It was agreed at a meeting with the consultants that they could bring the building forward.
The
Okay,
plan that you're not seeing showed a solar array right along 376. That plan you're not seeing, we felt having a solar array
Okay.
that's substantial right along 376 was.
and the home that's the current structure now, obviously being teared down.
Tear it
Where in relation is the building, because is that egress to the future parking lot right across from where that existing driveway is now?
It is the existing driveway.
Okay, all right. At the moment, those are my questions. yeah.
Okay.
thank you.
So I think do you want to just give us a quick overview of how you're planning to sell the products and if you anticipate any change to traffic at your site?
I actually wouldn't, the whole facility would actually be served by one truck. So, I wouldn't really see any more traffic than we already have. A lot of the traffic, that I see issues really comes from the school early in the morning and later in the afternoon when parents are dropping off and picking up their kids. We've actually had our entire driveway blocked off of parents trying to get into Van Wyck. I think they're doing a lot over there right
Yeah.
now, because they used to go through where the buses are parked and come around. So that was always, right at 8 o'clock in the morning when we'd be opening, there would be, cars backed up right down Hillside Lake Road. And then in the afternoon, it was generally the same. Certain times of the year, yeah, we do get busy and we have a lot of traffic, but I don't see much more traffic through the site than is already. We already have it.
So what you'll be growing through the greenhouse, is that primarily going to be sold off-site then at other locations?
Yes.
Or okay.
Yep.
And again, just a single truck to pick up and
Yeah.
deliver to other locations?
Yep.
Or okay.
How many, from a production standpoint, 70,000 square feet, I would assume you can't rack these things because they need to be next to the light, right? So it's going to be 70,000 square feet. Now, is it going to be like harvests where all of a sudden a couple of huge tractor trailers come in and take all this stuff away?
No,
Or is it
it'll-
going to be one small truck
It'll be
every day?
weekly harvest, probably twice a week, and one truck will go out, do its route, and come back, once a week. Once or twice a week, we'll go out,
are we talking like a box truck for this?
Yeah,
stuff?
like a box
I
truck,
mean,
not
it's-
tractor trailer.
I mean, how many tomatoes can 70,000 square feet grow?
Well, the growing area is, where the solar panels are there is actually the service area. That would be like our pack house, our office, the bathrooms, that kind of stuff. In there will fit about 10,000 tomato plants, which would, maybe, it's hard to really estimate exactly how
But
many.
it's not going to be more than one truck a day?
No. No. And we currently have that at times,
And no retail, ever?
not on site.
Okay.
Will the trucks,
But we
I mean, I don't want to paint
we
you in a
already
corner.
do have retail,
Yeah,
so.
I understand you have that, but the people
Yeah,
buying
I
flowers,
don't
but
want to say
meaning.
there's no retail, this is a retail
Yeah.
I know,
location.
I'm talking about retail
But
and tomatoes.
this greenhouse is a wholesale greenhouse only. It won't be open to the public to come in and shop.
That's what it's
It will
called.
be, strictly a, farm use production greenhouse.
Right, and I don't mean to press you on that, I think it answers the gentleman's question.
can you just point out, like, the truck that would service the site, where it would come in and where it would load, and just to show the gentleman sort of where he could expect the,
John has one if you want.
Entrance.
As we're proposing now, the loading area would be right here.
So a truck would enter the site,
The truck would probably enter from Hillside Lake Road, come around, pull in here, and then back up and wait to be loaded. Probably would be loaded, and then the next morning it would go out and do its run.
and would it exit on Hillside Lake, or would it come right out on
No, I think it would
376?
come right out to 376. We use this as a one-way now, so
Okay.
that generally when trucks come in, they don't have to back out and try to get back in, so that they can just come straight through, back out to 376.
Okay,
That would be the traffic flow we would like to keep.
okay. And again, you're assuming box trucks, but not tractor trailers
Yeah.
at this time?
Yep.
Okay.
There would, the size of this greenhouse wouldn't really facilitate a tractor trailer load.
Okay.
So
Brendan, any-
do you see increasing your staff, or you're able to handle that with the staff you have as far as harvesting?
It would be, the retail staff and the staff in here would be separate. There would be two different staffs.
But are you going to have additional employees to harvest this particular crop, or?
No, it would be, part-time and full-time employees for, the tomato business or the produce business. We would be hiring a new staff, or some would carry over back and forth, but it would be primarily two separate staffs.
Because I just don't know as far as, restroom facilities and those kind of facilities, if they're going to have, if there's anything on a plan, I don't think so for.
We're
Yeah,
not going to
Mark-
have any bathrooms in the greenhouses, right?
There will be.
Oh, there will be.
Mark, did you provide us an interior site plan for the greenhouse, just so we can get a feel for what the front office and other spaces?
They were working on that.
Okay.
Are they subject to health?
Okay.
Because one thing
Is
we'll
there
have to
a
check to
concern
see if they're, even though they're in an agricultural district, if there's going to be a bathroom, if they're subject to health department.
We've already dug the deep test pits and submitted the plan.
Up to the county health department?
Correct.
Okay. At least,
For how big a system, Mark?
It's not that big because it's all gravel, and we have, I think we're 12 employees, so there's not a lot
yeah,
of
it
flow
can't be a
here.
lot of.
So it's
flow.
12 employees,
Right.
okay.
So probably what you should show is just, the outline on this plan where, your septic's going to be, just
Okay.
a box. And then also, one of the answers to the questions about having another irrigation well, that should also be on there. Now, the water for the bathrooms and such, that's going to come from
The well.
a new well, another new well?
The new well.
Yeah.
Service both.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's going to be dual, okay.
So is the underground, well, it's going to be sealed.
Correct.
That your septic can't contaminate the
Right, well,
underground
the septic's
storage.
way in the back. I mean, right now, it's up against the rear property line. on the east side. You know, we kept it there so you could cultivate, you know, you won't have a plow disrupting it. So we had to kind of keep it in the back. And when the original building was back there, it was right behind the building. Now it's going to remain back there. So it'll be quite a ways from the underground.
Is it gonna pump it or gravity?
It'll probably be a pump because it's so far. So.
Right, I mean, so, you know, that should be on there too.
Yeah, we've submitted it to the board. We'll give you the whole thing.
What about a generator? Have you guys discussed?
We
it
do
yet?
have a generator planned.
You did discuss it?
Yeah, they mentioned that, and actually, that was the other thing. Can you just talk a little bit about the two kind of, I guess, for lack of a better term, they're like the HVAC for the
Power
greenhouse,
units,
and then the water, I guess it's called a water tower, I think is what was referred to as. Just point those out.
Those two, they are shown on the plan right here. One is a CHP generator unit that will serve all the heat and electricity that we need for the grow lights inside and all the heat. And then the second container here it's essentially a scrubbing system that's going to take the exhaust from that engine and scrub it so that we can actually use the gases off it in the greenhouse, the CO2, to actually enhance the crop itself. It's
Kind of cool.
recycling. You know, using it's a three-fer. You know, for every bit of fuel that we use, we're getting the most out of it, and you know, it seems to be. And then behind the two, the circle there is the hot water, you know, tower that would serve the hot water. The hot water would come off the engine into here, and then it would go distribute through the greenhouse. You know, as
How tall
When you
is
say
the
tall,
tower?
that's what I was going to say. When you say tower, what
I
does that
think
mean?
it's 40. Yeah, 20 by 40.
20 by 40, how high in the air?
40
40
feet.
feet.
And 20-foot diameter?
20 foot wide. Yeah.
Okay. Do we know what color that's going to be yet?
Yeah,
No, it's
yeah. We were going green. We were thinking green, so we're going right in.
Bright chrome, that way it's never.
Yeah.
Is there any way we could mistake it for a huge tomato?
Do a peach.
Okay. Okay. Great. Thank you. And do we have any, I think we had somebody else sign up, or? Stephen?
Good evening. My name is Stefan Turkin.
Stefan.
I live at 5 Patricia Court, which is almost diagonal on the newer property that Sabelico's acquired. The only questions I really have is, this board will approve and they will adjust whatever is necessary. My question is, what is the timetable in different phases? You have structures there that are going to be demolished and removed. Then there's ground preparation and supplies coming in. So what is the time frame? When do they expect to start, and when will they have to finish?
Okay. Great. Thank you. Mark, you want to answer that question for us, the timing for your construction?
Since the greenhouse is in Europe, it would have to be ordered by September 15th, I think was the date. That would allow them to begin construction, I think, in the spring.
You know, ideally,
I'm sorry.
ideally, we would like to be in production by next spring. Yeah. Actually have plants in the house. So.
And when you say spring, is that March? Is that
March,
April, or what's that?
I think our deadline, our absolute deadline to have plants in would be June 1st.
Okay.
I would really like them sooner, but, you know, we're at the will of when things will come, when things will be built, and, you know, the timeline of a lot of that.
I would assume it's like a pre-engineered structure where the foundation would have to be here, readied for the, you know, the panels, if you will, that would be delivered, and then, you know, so if they could begin construction before frost got in the ground. I'm sure they'd love to. And then, again, it's a 6-week to, I think, order and deliver. So that would put us obviously in a better time of the year. But it would still be okay to put the system up, since it's not really, you're not really working with things that can't be done in the cold. The concrete should already be poured for the foundations and the footings and such. The other work that can be done inside would be the installation of the tanks and things like that, so.
So you intend to have the structure up hopefully and operational by June 1st, but when, again, are you going to start on construction or demo of the house and that sort of thing?
As soon as we get the go-ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
And when would you demolish the house? That would be just as soon as you could as well?
Yeah, really, we're waiting to get through the process before we really start on.
Okay. So it sounds like construction, I'm sorry, sir, I'm going to look between you guys. It sounds like construction is going to start shortly after this planning process would end, and it would finish prior to June 1st, on or prior to June 1st.
That's construction on the.
I'm sorry, we just have to have you come up. We can't hear you if you're not near the mic.
That's construction on the new structure. What about the existing structures that are going to be demolished?
Right, the intention, it sounds like we just said their intent would be to demolish as soon as possible. So they're not finished with this process yet, but when they finished with their planning process, it would be shortly after that. So I don't know if it would be September or October, but it sounds like it would be in that time frame.
Assuming they're going to finish in June and start in September, okay, we're going to have constant construction?
No, what they're saying is it would be this September or October for the demolition, and then the
Right.
beginning of construction. The construction would actually be complete by next June with the greenhouse
I
operation.
understand that. So my question is, will that be constant construction going on?
Oh,
between-
from now through then?
Yes.
I'll let Mark address that, thank you.
It may be constant, but in a sense that the foundation and, the structure itself would probably be the most, I would say the most impact to the property. But once it's backfilled and the large tanks are installed, it really is just a function of setting the panels and constructing the greenhouse. I don't believe you're going to see, you certainly aren't dealing with, nailing hammers. You don't have air hammers. You don't have air nailers. You don't have things like that. You're dealing with glass, and it's a aluminum structure, which is all pre-engineered, comes from Europe, all pre-punched. So it's really, you're up there with wrenches and so on, and so you're not going to see. It's not a normal construction site where you'd be building a house. I would assume you're going to have noise when you're moving the soil, when you're doing that work, when you're pouring the concrete. But once the structure starts going up, it should not be that much of an impact as far as noise.
Okay. And you anticipate starting to build the structure, when would it be delivered if you were ordering it in September? Is that?
I think there's at least 4 months,
4 months
which is
before it
why
comes in.
we're trying to kind of get it, because we're a little worried about winter coming and,
Right.
really putting a stop on everything.
Right.
So we're trying to give ourselves a window large enough where, we can get everything done and not be fighting, feet of snow and freezing temperatures and,
Okay.
get everything. So I almost see the construction as being a little sporadic, because we'd get the foundation done, wait for the greenhouse to show up, start assembling the greenhouse, so it would, I wouldn't see it as being a constant for the next, 8-9 months.
Okay, and what about the ancillary structures like the water tower you just described, or the generator and stuff? Those would all be installed after the greenhouse, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
That would actually probably be delivered with the greenhouse, but it would be set up, once the actual greenhouse was set up and beginning to be operational,
Okay. Is there, I'm assuming because you're venting the exhaust to recycle the, is it mufflered as well, or is there a noise to the
Yes.
generator that would be unusual?
I believe it comes with attenuation. It has an attenuation kit on it.
Okay, okay. And what about the other, like the HVAC or the water tower units? Do those have like motors that are running, or any significant noise level coming from those?
The water tower does.
No, it's just
strictly a
stagnant.
water
I didn't know if there was a pump that had to run with it. I'm assuming because it's
That would
40
actually
feet,
be
you wouldn't
inside
need
the
it, but-
greenhouse, the pump that would
Okay.
operate off there, so.
Okay.
Is there any light on that 40-foot tower?
No.
We're going to put a spinning chicken.
Sir, did that answer your question, or did you?
Yes, it did.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anyone else on the list?
You do?
Oh, if you want to come up, sure, you can come back up.
Told you I had a lot of questions.
That's fine.
Get to.
That's why we're here.
Just to confirm, you said you're not, it's wholesale, right? So that parking spot is not for retail. So that's just going to be for the employees?
Correct.
Okay.
The retail will remain.
Remain on the other side. Well, here's my other concern too. 376
I'm
Hillside
sorry,
where it
just
splits.
talk towards the
I'm
microphone
sorry.
for us, 'cause we can't hear you.
376 where it goes down towards A1 Lawnmower and Van Wyck, it's a nightmare
Right.
at 5 o'clock. Do you guys travel over there at all? It's an
Yes.
absolute nightmare. So if I have to go that way, I go the long way. All right, so I'm concerned about that, okay? Also, the original design showed for the solar panel to be parallel to 376, right? And then, so that's scratched. Is that why you moved the structure forward? Is that the only reason? Is there anything preventing you from...
Sir, again, I'm sorry, we need you to...
I'm sorry. I don't listen to instruction very well. The original panels are supposed to be parallel to 376.
On the ground.
Right.
Right?
On the ground.
On the
Now
ground.
they're mounted on the building.
And that's
what
why
the
they
dark
shifted the
stripes
building
are.
forward,
Right.
right? Is there anything preventing them from keeping the building back?
I think only that the land that they wanted to use for crops, although I can let the applicant answer.
The panels were like 25 feet off the edge of the road.
Yeah, the panels were all within the
12-foot
100-foot setback.
With now the building's 40 feet high, though. Is it not? Or is
No,
that
the
just
building's
generators?
26 feet high. The building's 26 feet, just
It's just the water tower.
the water tank is 40.
The water tank is...
But the
all right, I
building
must
is
have been eased
26
off
feet.
back there, I apologize. All right, so the water tower is 40 feet.
Right.
The existing structure itself is 26.
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
The new structure, the new greenhouse.
The
will
new
be 26.
greenhouse, okay. And you said it's 75 feet from 376, from the curb?
Right,
Okay.
right.
Oh, there's no curb there.
And that's the corner of the building. If you can see, there's a little bit of a horizontal line that runs through that bottom right-hand corner of the building.
Yeah, that's the
That
set...
line
yeah.
is the 100-foot setback line from Route 376.
I got you.
So
So
it's
basically,
just encroaching a little bit down.
it's right in between your existing egress, right, and the driveway.
This is the existing
All right.
driveway, this is the existing entrance.
Okay, all right. That's all I got right now.
Okay. All right. Is there anybody else who would like to offer comment for or against the Sabelico's site plan? Okay, great. Mark, come on up for me. It sounds like there's a few things you need to add to the plan, mostly, let me just run down my list. And bear with me, I'm sorry. So moving the parking more internal to the site.
Yep.
Sediment and erosion control for the construction. Details on the containment system for the stormwater, so you
Yep,
can
we
understand
got
how
that.
much attenuation you'll get. Details on where the new well is planned. Is the new well already on the plan? I'm sorry, I didn't know.
No,
It's not,
no,
okay, so.
we haven't proposed it yet.
And then along with that, I think the location of the septic as well, just so we can make sure the well and the septic are located on the plan.
Okay.
We didn't talk about hours of operation. Is this a 24-hour operation where there'd be employees there 24 hours, or does it kind of sleep at night, or it would sleep at night? Okay. So normal hours of operation would be sun up to sundown, or a little bit beyond that, somewhere around there? I'm sorry, I don't mean to make you keep running back and forth.
I'd say, the majority of the employees would really just be, 9 to 5, 8 to 5, normal sort of business hours. I might be there all night, but that's the
Just
farmer
watching them
mentality.
grow.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, great.
Plants will be working.
CO2,
Yes.
plants do very well with CO2, there's nothing wrong with that. All right. And then we talked about, I think a construction plan, Mark, if we can have just kind of the schedule of
Oh, the
construction
interior
for the
layout.
tear down of the house and
Oh, right.
the installation of the foundation, just give us a sense of the construction.
Wait, I'm sorry, you're saying the removal of the existing house, you're saying, like a demolition plan?
Yeah, like a timetable for
Just
the
do a little bit of a phasing
Phasing
schedule.
plan? Okay. Okay.
phasing, that was the right, I'm sorry, I used the wrong word, thank you. And if you have it, or when you have it, I'm sorry, the interior building layout,
Yep.
because there was the greenhouse use, we understand. I think you also had some office use, restrooms, that sort of thing. Just give us a general sense of that layout as well.
Okay.
And if you have any external, like the HVAC units, the water towers, anything that's not already shown, just make sure everything's on the
Okay.
plan so that we can see where it is. Any other questions from board members as far as what we've heard so far and what?
Pete just reminded the fence.
We have the fence,
Sorry, Pete.
we have the fence, Lori, around the,
Yeah, I have
the greenhouse.
Thank you.
And then I think they also said they were going to take a look at moving the 15 employee parking spaces. Didn't you say that, Mark? You're going to take a look at maybe moving those?
Relocating it, we got it.
Right. That was the parking that right now is shown fairly close to the existing residence, so if we can move that back a little bit interior to the site, that would be good. Okay. Brendan, anything from a traffic standpoint that stops us from closing the public hearing?
No.
Okay. Michelle, anything from planning perspective? Okay. Morris, Pete, anything from more? Okay. And Scott?
The only other thing I think was brought up once before, if you could get a handle on how much earthwork you're really going to have and how much is going to come off the site, just so it doesn't come as a shock to anybody if you got, a lot of truckloads coming off, or do you intend to keep everything
I don't
on the site?
anticipate anything coming off, because as you know, the site's flat. I think anything we would make that would be extra, we'd move.
Yeah, we don't
on
have any
site.
details on your water containment, so I have no
Okay.
idea what kind of volume that's going to generate. If you're keeping it all on site, that's fine.
Yeah, I would think we wouldn't take it anywhere. You're going to construct this thing a foot or so above grade anyway, so any material that we would remove for the storage tanks would create that pad. So that's why I'd say, I think most of it would stay on site, plus the backfill around the foundation. I think you'd stay on site.
Okay. So Michelle, our standards for this discussion were there any public health or safety issues raised? I don't think we heard any this evening. And were there any significant impact to the site or the surrounding area that can need to be addressed? And I think we've already talked, Mark, just about a few things that you would change. We just went through that list. So I think we're okay to close the public hearing unless you see any reason we need to hold it over. Okay. Anybody from the board have any concern about closing the public hearing? Then do I have a motion to close?
Motion to close the public hearing?
I have a motion. Do I have a
So
second?
moved.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
What we'll do is we'll schedule you for decision on September 1st.
Okay, thank you very much.
And thank you for sharing this with us. It's a really interesting project. Great. All right, the next item on our agenda is the Beekman Golf Course. I think, Pam, we're holding that over till September 1st. Unfortunately, the applicant was unable to be here tonight. Circumstances beyond their control.
Can I just make a comment on
Oh,
that?
sure.
There were some issues with their plans. Have you been notified the issue with the dual
Yes.
flag lot? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the next item on our agenda then is Blue Hill Mobile on Route 52 and Blue Hill Road. Blue Hill Mobile?
Blue Hill Mobile?
Okay.
Hey, Mitch. Hey. I knew you were coming, so I came to.
Who's speaking for you?
It's just a thing. We'll be right back.
Give him a second.
How you doing?
I was going to say, I just saw you trying to hide under the table when Mitch came in.
Do we?
No.
They're not, they're students, but they're not high school students.
Blue Hill Gas Station. Been in front of the board before on this application, put some different variations on expansion. Applicant decided to concentrate on refurbishing the existing building out there. You can see it's under construction right now through building department permit. This application is somewhat similar to the Hopewell Station, where we want to have a deli use in this door. It's roughly about the same size as the Hopewell Station. I think we're a hair under 2,400 square foot, plus or minus, off the top of my head. This store previously had a vehicle service repair, had the convenience aspect of it, the filling aspect of it, and a couple of years ago, it also had a Dunkin' Donuts.
I remember.
I'm not sure everybody's familiar with that.
Yep. We do.
So what we'd like to do is, when we were remodeling it on the inside, we removed the vehicle repair option from it. We expanded convenience, and we added roughly about a 300 square foot deli counter prep area similar to the Hopewell Station.
Okay.
In talking to the building department and Scott's office, the issue regarding parking came up, and I think through timing of the Hopewell Station, we kind of took a look at this one as well in tandem.
Okay.
So if you're looking at the deli use as the principal use of the station, you're looking at about 24 spaces required. And I think including the canopy parking areas, there's 4 fueling pumps, there's 8 positions underneath the pump canopy, and then there's a couple of spots on each side of the building. I think we're about 27 spaces on site right now. And what we propose to do was some minor changes to locate handicap parking on the, let's say, left side of the building, looking at the plan here, and new curbing and sidewalk in front of the building to allow handicap access. We did 2 ramps on each side of the building. And then, let's say on the right side, as we're looking at this plan here, there was an existing propane storage area. There was a rather large motor fuel storage area, refuse enclosure. We basically put a loading area next to the building to allow deliveries into the building that could back up. That's not for fuel delivery. Fuel delivery normally loops through the site. It's just for convenience item delivery. We showed another handicap parking spot on the right side of the building looking at the plan here. So no major improvements to the site other than adding the curbing, sidewalk in front of the store, 2 handicap spots with striping, signage designation, and the biggest change is back to more of a deli use / restaurant use that was previously on site, taking out the vehicle repair.
Okay. Is there intention to have I'll call it a chain or a franchise back in the building again, or is this
There's no intention to have just a deli.
just a deli?
And
Okay.
right now, the property is, we have less use than before, because we used to have a mechanics, convenience store, and a Dunkin' Donuts. Now we have only a convenience store.
Okay. Are you still going to have, I think you used to have the liquid propane, like the tank exchange cage, is that still on the plan?
We're going to have them on the side of the building,
Inside the, oh,
on the side.
On this side.
oh, on the side.
On the side. You see where
That
that,
side, yeah.
we had the larger delivery area?
Mhm.
We're going to have the cabinet on the side of the building.
No,
Okay.
the tank, I think we taken, I don't know if we took it off, we're taking the tank away. The big tank is no longer there.
Right,
There was a larger, like 500 gallon,
right.
that's out. Now we're doing the storage cabinet.
So you're just doing the cabinet,
Just
swap
cabinet,
and swaps, okay.
And the removal of that tank allows us to reconfigure that refuse enclosure and provide that delivery zone.
Okay. Go ahead.
I mean, there's 2 delicatessens right across the street. And then I realize it's not theoretically the purview of this board, but, I mean, what's your thoughts about the existing delicate saturation point?
If you go in the morning, we do have eggs. We have eggs. They have a small grill, and we have butter roll, we have butter bagels. We always sell breakfast. And those days, the gas stations is not just people go in there and buy Pampers or buy bleach. They go in there for food or munchies. That's the industry. And this is not a full deli. I know there's a huge deli across the street. We will never be compete with the deli across the street. But we're looking for breakfast and, lunch and
So
and that's it.
similar hours of
Actually,
operation to what you described for your site here in Hopewell?
in the
I
gas
think you
station,
had 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. or 5? Six to
will
three.
be a
Six
breakfast
to
and
three.
lunch. The about it. The most you can get out of
So
it.
roughly 6
Any gas
to
station.
6 to 3?
I think
give or
6
take?
to 1 or 2. I mean, maybe 1 o'clock they be out. You have some sandwiches prepaid in a quarter.
Okay.
But I mean, so, okay. So you don't see it as directly competing with either one of those delicatessens or
Absolutely
delicatessens?
not.
If you're going to go mile in either direction, you can probably tack on 3 more delis.
Yeah, and you go to Hyatt Garage next door. I do have a deli there. And you do see a just, 6-foot deli case, and they do some eggs. They probably sell 4 or 5 sandwiches. Just convenient for the customers.
But this is going to have a full grill and the hood and all the stuff. You're going to be doing burgers.
The grill is because the fire department, we put the grill, you have to put the fire suppression, so instead of paying grilling 4 foot, we got 8 foot, the same price almost, because you got to do all the fire suppression and everything. And,
Is there any plan to improve the landscaping of that site? Since you basically...
With this application, no. This application right now is just hopefully go before the board and discuss the change in use back to its previous use. We showed some minor site plan modifications to accommodate, like I said, the parking.
Okay.
Okay. Michelle, have you had a chance to go out to the site yet and
No, not the
look at
site.
the proposed layout of the parking and the?
No, I've only looked at the
And the
proposed
landscape.
layout of the parking on this plan.
Okay. And Brendan, have you had a chance yet to look at the traffic flow?
I haven't looked at it in detail, no.
Okay. I'm assuming traffic flow is still going to be governed by the pumps as opposed to the deli use?
Yes, 4 pumps, 8 fueling positions. With that size building, it's still going to be the pumps that control the
It's going to be the pumps that
traffic
govern the
generation,
traffic, okay. All right. So Brendan, with the pumps not changing, then is there any need to do any kind of traffic, or are we comfortable, we understand the traffic at this site already?
Yeah, the only question I would have would be related to, you said you're going to add a sidewalk in the front, but that's not going to inhibit the through of the fuel truck.
Right, if I may, there's already existing sidewalk here.
Okay.
Just extended.
Okay.
So as far as circulation through the front of the store, there would not be any change. We're just extending it basically where the vehicle bays used to be, repair bays. Just going to extend it right across.
no, there was an island in front of the bay for the car to jump on it. So if you look where the existing bay, there was an island with like a sidewalk sticking out like 5 feet. And it was like a curve. Instead of have that, now you have just sidewalk.
And Brian, the stone wall, that's existing?
Correct. It's a stone wall.
Okay.
And that's within the right of way.
You said it's a stone wall planter?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to.
Stone wall
we can't
planter,
hear
and
you.
it's within the DOT's right of way. No change to that whatsoever. And again, from a parking standpoint, we have the site, the principal use as being a deli from a parking standpoint, but from an overall use standpoint, the deli aspect is only, I believe, I don't even think we're 300 square foot for the deli in total, so.
I'm looking at the documentation, there's a grease bin for this too? I mean,
Well, with any type of deli use, you want to control your grease before it gets into the septic system.
Is there a fryer with this as well?
Correct.
There is, okay.
So we incorporated the same concept that we did with the Hopewell station, where it's an undermount, floor-mounted, ground-mounted grease trap that has a bin that it dumps into behind the refuse enclosure. Same concept was brought over.
Okay. I'm sorry.
I think we have more parking than the previous use, because they used to fix the cars and leave the cars overnight, 3-4 cars on the premises.
Right.
But right now, there's nobody leaving any cars there, and we have less use than before.
Right. So, to that point, are you fully paved at the site right now?
Correct.
Okay, you're not proposing to pull up any of the pavement and land bank parking, or you?
That's up to the discretion of the board. I think we worked with the Hopewell Station in trying to land bank and preserve areas.
Well, there wasn't really an opportunity to pull up pavement at that site because it wasn't, so. I'm just asking because here I think some of the pavement's a little bit cracked up anyway, so I didn't know if you were
I'm willing, we're willing to pave the whole parking lot all over, the whole gas station. I'm doing the whole gas station all over.
You're going to redo the pavement?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm shocked I'm here in front of the board, because when I went in front of the ARB, they were happy to see the building the way it is. Then it says come here because of deli. And it used to be a Dunkin' Donut, it used to be a fast, and they say it's a fast food. Fast food to me is a drive-through, McDonald's, Burger King. I don't know how you guys calling it as a fast food. And every gas station sells sandwiches, sells eggs. Every gas station I own sells this. And no other town will call a deli as a fast food.
I understand that.
But this one's previously used to be a fast food, used to be a Dunkin' Donut, and also we sell eggs. Until today, if you go in the morning, you have fresh eggs in the morning, and you have sandwiches.
Yeah, but, I mean, Mitch, I understand your point, but in both those uses, food was being brought on site prepared. You weren't preparing food on site. And so I think that's kind of a change, which, by the way, you know, the restroom is probably going to have to be kept a little better.
Well, we put in brand new restroom, bathrooms.
Yeah.
The bathrooms in Hopewell better than my house. Go look at it. And it's going to be the same thing here. I mean,
I think part of the reason here, well, there's a couple of reasons you're here, but not so much the fast food, but keep in mind you're replacing garage bays with convenience. So there's a change there. You're expanding the convenience portion. We want to just review the parking. There's also a requirement.
Well, we are changing the parking.
Right.
The spaces are different because the old use had a different parking layout.
And there's also a requirement that when you go back in and renovate a commercial building to a certain degree, like the magnitude that you've done, that there's actually a site plan that's submitted, which unfortunately wasn't done. But we just want to take a look and make sure everything works, that's all, which it appears it does, so.
And by the way, I agree, the building looks a lot better than it did.
and this property is much larger than Hopewell, by the way. It's over an acre of land. Over here is half acre.
No, we understand. Any questions or comments from board members? Anything else? Okay. Brendan, we talked about traffic. Michelle, did we talk about planning and KRF? Any comments? Okay. Is there anything you need to review?
I mean, the only thing, obviously, would be the landscaping, but most of the landscape areas where they could landscape would require them to go get a use and occupancy permit from New York State DOT, because most of the areas that would be landscaped are outside of their site anyway. So really, it makes it difficult for them to do anything without that approval, and that takes a long time, and they're not doing a full.
Are there any?
It's a minor site plan amendment.
Right.
Are there any parking spots where you would land bank as opposed to stripe at this time? Because I think there were some spots that were up fairly close to 52, kind of at an angle. I don't know that, again, kind of similar to Hopewell Gas, there's this requirement in the code, but I think realistically, we probably don't need.
I think the only, if I looked at the plan, Lori, a couple of ones that are actually near the Blue Hill entrance, you know, just so that actually had a little bit more freedom to get in and out.
You could get rid of, you only need 22 spaces, and I think you're providing 25, so you could technically get, not stripe 3 spaces to give some room for yourself.
I think it would be a wise idea
But
not
you
to
also
put-
want to know where his delivery truck may park and how many spots you may lose during deliveries to make sure you had those.
You added that loading area.
Did you have don't you have a loading zone next to the building?
Yeah.
No, I don't think that's for your fuel truck, is it?
Fuel
truck's all the way on the other side.
Yeah.
I mean, from a land banking standpoint, I mean, obviously, from a client standpoint, we want to try to keep this as a minor site plan amendment. So as far as land banking goes, are we talking removal of pavement or just removal of
No,
striping?
just be removal of striping, similar.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as far as vehicle movement goes, I don't think we're sacrificing anything.
And I think Michelle
Well, I just
pointed,
didn't want to have, if we didn't need them spots up close to 52 like that, I don't think people are going to want to walk all the way across the parking lot anyway.
It's like,
Make the
you
sandwiches.
think this one would definitely be there.
yeah, and that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could designate that like the hatched area, no parking.
Well, that one already has, what is that? Is that trees or, no, those are manholes.
That's a light pole. Oh, that thing, yeah, those are manholes.
Those are monitoring walls.
And the light poles you're not changing, because I was out there one other time and looked at those.
No change.
What about lighting on, any change to the lighting plan? Canopy stays the same?
lighting
Any
all-
lighting on the building that's not there now?
The lighting all brand new, all LED, been done by Central Hudson.
And all shielded?
Shielded down.
Okay.
It's LED lights.
Okay. Do we have any detail on the lights, or do we need that, Michelle?
I was out there and looked at the lights, so if you're not changing the existing lighting poles that are out there, I did that the last time they were in. So they're the same exact lights that are out there?
They were changed when they redid the canopy,
LED
and they're all
lights.
LED cutoff, low cutoff, full cutoff, I should say.
There's a second floor going up. What's going upstairs?
It's a vacant space, there's no, it's just framing, facade framing.
Is it open to the interior, or is it
Basically,
attic
we just,
space?
we covered the roof that's existing.
Okay. Okay. And you have no chain or franchise, did we, I'm sorry, we asked that already. Okay.
No change. In future, I don't know. I still
Okay.
own another acre and a half in the back.
Okay. I'm assuming, Scott, same thing with the grease bin outside?
Yes.
And there's already a grease trap shown on the sink on the interior? Okay.
And I may have missed it, but if they could show the storage for the propane on the site plan, it's not on here.
Yeah, we could show it on the side of the building.
And Brian, you looked at the septic?
When we originally did the Dunkin' Donuts, it was based upon restroom that were provided. So there's 2 restrooms that were provided in the original plan. I think one of them may have been employee, one of them may have been public. With the internal modifications that we're making, they're both going to be, we're going to have 2 bathrooms that remain, and they're going to both be open to the public. So that bathroom count and flow count remain the same, 800 gallons a day.
So you're not changing the requirement, so you don't have to expand? Okay.
Can you just, document that, to Joe, that was one of his comments, if you could just.
And also, we have
go
less
through all that.
employees than before. We used to have 2, 3 mechanics.
Yeah, I mean, I would doubt
4 or
that
5
you
people
would
work
use
for
800
Dunkin' Donuts.
gallons a day there for just, a deli and convenience, but.
But
So you
we
should have less
no,
flow.
no, we have less flow because
Right.
we have less employees, by far.
It's fine.
Bear with me. I know we're talking about making some changes to the handicap parking area, striping some parking, removing the parking spots at the entrance to 52, is that correct?
One off of Blue Hill coming in, and one on 52 coming in.
I'm sorry, Michelle, I couldn't.
One off of Blue Hill, the entrance near Blue Hill, there's one that's sort of right up against the egress, and then there's one on 52.
1 or 2 on?
There's 2 on 52.
I guess you could do this one too.
You have 3
Yeah, I'd like to
entrances.
keep cars, I'd like to keep parked
You can
cars
get rid of
away
3.
from the entrances.
So you want to see, Brian? This one here, and this one here. We'll give you more room in the entrance.
So one spot next to Blue Hill, and then,
Yeah, there's one spot next to each of the entrances.
so you're just proposing removal of 2?
3.
3,
There's
okay.
there's 3 points of egress, so.
Okay. All right, so remove the parking spot next to each egress? Okay.
Are we going to do similar with no parking right in front of the building?
I don't think you could park there, right?
Oh, you
Isn't
want
there
to
a
put
gas
striping in
pump
front, is what
right-
you're saying?
I'm just asking, have you looked at that, similar to here?
Do you want to put the no parking
Is
striping
that a
here?
concern of yours?
If you want, we have
No,
no
I'm just,
problem.
I'm just asking, is that have you thought about that, whether it's needed or not?
Do cars park in front of them?
See, people come park, I never have problem people park at the front. They gotta park regardless what. There's a stripe.
There's not quite enough room between the gas pump.
There's not enough, there's only one
There's no
lane.
escape lane through.
There's no escape lane.
No, it's pretty tight there.
Okay. Yeah, as long as you never have a problem with people trying to pull up, go in, and then blocks your gas pump.
He's blocking anyway.
Have you guys had a chance to produce letters for this application?
No, I think we actually got this one at the meeting, right? Yeah. yet. We got this one at the pre-meeting.
Well,
Okay.
we were working with Scott and going over concepts on what would be required with this type of change. So what we did is we initially gave it to the consultants at the review meeting to have a quick once-over, get in front of the board to see what you guys want, to see how we take it from this point forward as far as approval.
Okay. Pam, do we have a full application right now? Not yet? Okay. All right. Will we have a full app?
I'm sorry, I think we're leaning still as a minor amendment, though, right? So-
Right, I'm asking, do we have what we need for that?
For the minor amendment?
Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
But we don't have a full application.
I meant an application for the requested change of use and the minor site plan changes.
We have a cover letter describing what they're planning on doing and the plan.
And these plans? Okay.
And whatever fee, I imagine, right?
We don't have a fee yet because we wanted to make sure we could do a minor as
Okay.
part of this application.
I'm leaning towards minor. I think anybody on the board disagree? This is a minor site plan change and then a formal change of use? Okay. All right, so if we schedule you for decision on the 1st, can you have the, whatever appropriate fee involved with
Right, I'll
us?
get together with Pam, and these changes are minor in nature.
Okay, and I'm just going to read back to you what I've got in notes so far to make sure we're on the same page. This would be a minor site plan change and change of use to allow the deli use with a counter, grill, and fryer area. We would require,
And I
that
think,
they
just for the record, eliminating the auto repair, right, and going.
and, right,
Yeah.
the change of use will document in the resolution. We would look, the gas station again, open 24 hours. The deli counter, which would include the convenience store, the deli counter itself would be open somewhere between 6 a.m. and 3 p.m., give or take, on the hours of operation. You'd be subject to Board of Health approval. It doesn't sound like you're changing your septic or the volumes. You'd be subject to that. We'd remove the parking next to each egress. We'd put the same comment as we did with Hopewell Gas, which is just say if in the event that you're going to bring in a chain or some sort of franchise or something, you'd come back to the planning board for change of use. We'd install the internal grease trap within the building, and you also need to make sure that your refuse area is large enough to include the grease bin in the refuse area. And
Are you changing the refuse enclosure as part of this?
Well, we're removing the larger propane tank, so there will be a slight reconfiguration because we're taking that tank away.
So you plan on having two bins?
Two.
Okay. You have one now, maybe two.
No problems with that.
And you're showing the removal of the tank and the installation of the swap cage?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. Anything else that I missed, guys? Okay, so as long as you complete the fees and anything along those lines, we'll put you on September 1st for decision.
Appreciate it.
Okay?
Thank you.
I want to ask the board one question about my Hopewell gas station,
Uh-huh.
where the garbage dumpster is. It looks like in the middle of the station. I would like to push it back 10 feet if I can. Looks like a pimple in somebody's face. You guys could go and look at it. I'd like to see it
Do you have
back.
an easement there? Is there an
Well,
easement right
what we
behind
did is I think we made an agreement that any kind of utility, if there has to be any kind of repair, it's upon the applicant to remove anything that's in that easement to allow for
Okay.
maintenance or repair. So I think what the applicant is doing, we've already have that agreement in place or an understanding of that.
Okay.
The question was is if he could push it.
You're more than happy to visit and look at it. It looks like in the middle of the station.
I kind of
If I could push
agree. It
back
looks
10 to
like
12
it's
feet.
kind of jutting out a little bit, yeah.
I like to push it back.
Do you have the space to push it back?
Yes.
And if we
Well, I
don't
think the
consider-
issue is it's then going to encroach in the sewer easement? Is that
Something
why it's
happen,
where it is now?
I'll break it, under my own expense.
Right, so I mean, as long as we can come up with the proper language, I think that's fine.
Okay, so.
We've already got the AC units in there.
All right, so first, anything else with Blue Hill? Okay, and then can I have a motion for an amendment to the resolution we'll create for Hopewell Gas to also include the change of location of the refuse container from its present location to 10 feet behind it? To 10
Just pushing,
feet, or is
we're not
it-
changing location, I'm just pushing it back to the 10 feet, wherever I could push it.
Okay.
Technically, it's a change of location. So,
Field
motion to move the change of
To add
location
that as
for
an
the
additional requirement
dash
for the
trash
final
can.
revised
Add it
plan.
to the final, the
Okay, I
last.
have a motion. Do I have a
What she
second?
said.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
You poured
Okay,
a
so
slab already?
we'll
We
we'll
poured a
add
slab,
that.
I wasn't aware, then I stopped the construction when I saw it. I says,
So Brian, we'll make that a
It's not
condition of the
properly
Cut the slab,
resolution.
wouldn't it?
no, we leave the slab, we just put another slab in front of it, behind it.
But a car's gonna hit the slab sticking out, first flush.
No, if the car hits it, then I gotta cut it.
We'll look
We'll
at
make
it.
it flush. We look at it, I'm sure it's flush.
Okay.
But right now, I think it's a flush because the loading.
We'll have to look at it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, the next item on our agenda is Lehigh Lawns and Landscaping amended site plan on Sprout Creek Court.
No. No, it shouldn't. Good evening. Lehigh Landscaping, we're going to call it one, as the board knows. The applicant has purchased this property here to take care of some of the incongruities with the approved site plan. So we're going to be moving some of the equipment and storage bins and areas are going to be shown, and we have that site plan that's obviously up next. The changes we've made to this are very minor in a sense that we've taken some of the equipment that was to be removed off this site and relocated to the site across the street. We've made those amendments. And really, that's the only changes we make. As you know, we are proposing a proposed propane tank in front of the existing structure. We have been in front of the ZBA and obtained the variances for both the seasonal use, which would be up in this corner, as well as...
Can we just pull that down so we can see the whole?
Yeah, Matt, can you
site
scroll
plan?
that down? Yeah, we're proposing a seasonal use right here. Right there. I'm sorry, a seasonal display. I
And
think
this is what
maybe,
you had approved at the zoning board.
right, I think you may have remembered last year, we had actually a tractor there, and Alan would like to do certain displays, you know, seasonal itself. So that variance was granted. We got a variance that was granted also for the fuel tanks, excuse me, that were installed. One of the comments I think Michelle brought up is that we put it on concrete. This is on asphalt. I'm wondering if the asphalt is acceptable in lieu of concrete.
Say it again, I'm sorry.
Michelle recommended that we remove this and put concrete in. This is asphalt. This was installed when he put them in. I'm wondering if the asphalt is acceptable.
To the untrained eye, why does it matter?
I think as long as
Less
it's
porous or
impervious.
what's the-
It
yeah.
just shows it just shows the tanks off of this concrete, the way it's written on the site plan. It looks like it's not on,
Yeah, we can move the tanks to it, but to pour
What is
concrete,
the difference, concrete versus asphalt, does it matter?
it's color.
I was looking at it as if it was an on asphalt. I thought it was on gravel from the way it was looking on this plan.
We have a note on the plan. It's note 6, calls it out as a 30 by 30 asphalt.
Okay, so Mark,
But
it's
it's not
currently
on
sitting
the
on
asphalt
asphalt.
No, it's sitting on gravel.
No.
It said that they can move it, right?
The actual tanks are sitting on gravel. We'd like to move them onto the asphalt and in lieu of putting concrete there.
I mean,
I think it's, that's your
That's-
option. Either if you want to leave them where they are, put something underneath them, or if you want to move them onto the...
And then we'll put the bollards.
As impervious as concrete.
We agree.
That's fine.
Okay.
I just, the way it was on the plan is showing on gravel, so
Right.
that was the concern.
okay, thank you.
The other comment that I think Michelle brought up was the landscaping in the back here, in this area. As you know, the landscaping was installed here per the plan. This area was left open to the board to reconsider later. Michelle had provided some photos. I do take exception with these, and I'm going to be blunt. I think these were not taken on the rail trail. These had to be taken very close to this trail or in this area here. The rail trail is way up here. And I have some photos to show everybody that all we're going to be doing is cutting down full growth to put in trees.
So are you not counting the entrance to the rail trail
Mark,
as part of?
I wasn't
I
on
would
the
take exception to that because
wasn't on the
you've got a
entrance.
staging area right there behind those mafia blocks. So if you can have a staging area, you can certainly plant it if you remove
No,
the objects
let me
that are there.
hand these out. It's not, my point is not what's there. My point is, the rail trail is 30 feet higher than this point these photos were taken. The rail trail goes over Route 376. If you look at these photos, there's no way we'll ever get a tree in there that's gonna hide this building or hide any.
The intent isn't to hide the building, the intent is to break up the view shed, so you're not looking directly at it.
at the building.
And instead, you have something else that's your first.
You know, I would just say, why don't you guys go out and take a look? And you can, I parked at the rail trail parking lot. I was standing there with several people walking by me, and I was on the rail trail, and I took these photographs.
Well, my point is, we're gonna be clear cutting these trees, and I've talked it over with Alan, we're gonna be in the root balls of the existing trees, which are, I don't know, 30, 40 feet. So they're gonna go. So now we're gonna be putting in 7 or 8 foot high evergreens, obviously new growth.
Can you point to exactly where you're talking about?
Right here.
Right
It's this area right here. Right now, Alan has material and everything else stored back there, which this site plan here is proposed to rectify that situation. This will be all taken out of here as we had promised. It's just that, I just find it.
Why don't you come up with some type of planting that you can plant next to the wall?
Okay.
I mean, he's a landscaper, next to the wall to try to break up that wall and hug the wall.
Yeah, I'd like to not
Come up
do.
with something that,
Yeah, no, and I'm agreement. That's why I'm here tonight to talk about it. I'd like to come up with something else. To put evergreen trees in, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ellen, they gotta be 25 feet apart. It basically we'd like to do something else.
I'll just say that one of the neighboring properties clearly was asked to plant evergreens from the planning board at some point because it has evergreen screening. And I would I would recommend that the planning board go out and take a look, and then you guys can decide whether or not you feel it's necessary to put any landscaping in it.
Hold on a second though, Mark.
What
You're
would be the
talking
reason
about
that you
moving.
wouldn't want to improve the look of the property?
Sorry.
What would be the reason you wouldn't want to improve the look of the property from the rail trail? Isn't that good advertising?
Well, it's not that it's actually going to open it up, is what. Right now, with the trees you have there, and I encourage you to look at the photos.
We're looking.
If you look at what's there, you're hiding what's behind the stockpiles. You know, you have trees there that are, like I said, 30, 40 feet tall. When you're on the rail trail, your feet are at the level of his roof. So you're going to be cutting down these trees and looking down into his yard. These trees prevent that. So, and I don't mean to be argumentative, it's just, it opens up the back of that to everybody walking up and on top of the rail trail.
So question for the board, do we want to schedule a formal site visit out to this location and just take a look at it together? Or would we rather go individually?
I think that's a great idea, but I just wanted to probe, Mark, you're saying, your first comment was that you were going to take a lot of that stuff out.
It is coming out.
What's coming out?
There's trailers back there, there's all kinds of equipment that he put back there. He ran out of room when he moved out of Daly Road. He did purchase the piece across the street, we'll see it in the next application. All of that is coming out of there. What will be left is the mafia block, if you will, along the back. We can landscape that with something. He would rather not do pine, only because to do pine, you have to have a wide open swath.
So Mark, I don't think any of us are going to object if you were proposing something different. What you started by saying is we don't think we should be doing anything there. So it sounds like you're okay with doing something.
Apologize, not what I meant. It's just that I'd rather not do evergreens. That's a comment, and I just want to come up with something else.
Is it arborvitae? Is it something else? I don't know what it is, but.
Yeah, we'll come up with something. We'd like to get something close to the wall, but be able to keep the trees as far as the height that are there without removing those and work around those.
Oh, okay, so you're gonna keep the trees that are already there.
We'd like to.
You don't want to remove them.
Correct.
Okay, that's
Only
where I-
because they're
That's where I
height-
had the, that's where I had the problem. I thought you were gonna remove them all and start all over again.
Well, that's what we would have to do if we were to put the evergreens in as we had originally proposed it.
Because when I went out there, I noticed that it could be improved.
Right.
Look, but I didn't think that you were gonna be taking them down. Okay.
First of all, I already think the site has improved a lot with the change in color and the bright blue, and getting that tree off the roof was a biggie too. So let's start with that. But part of the site visit has to be kind of labeled that says, let's mark off the stuff that is coming out of there, so that we all kind of get a sense for what's going to be there.
Okay.
And I also do remember Mr. Lehigh's comments about disrupting the root system. Right, so we have to be mindful of that, that if we say, oh, well, we'd like to insert pine trees in between those trees, you are going to disrupt the root system of those mature trees. Got that, so.
Yeah, we'd like to come up with an alternative.
But you have to admit too, though, going the other way, that there is some construction material plainly visible from the rail trail.
Absolutely, and we'd like to do it. I'd just like to keep the trees that are there if we can. To best, some of them are dead, we're going to have to remove them. But we'd like to work around with what we can get in there, and just, if we can do that, I'd appreciate that.
We want you to bring us something that you're proposing as opposed to saying, no, we don't want to do that, come and say, we'd like to do this instead.
We will, I will. The only other question I had, I've lost track with this because it really, I don't know if this had a public hearing. Did it? No, but I mean the amendment. I don't think we did. The zoning board had one, but I don't remember the planning board having their own public hearings for the amendments.
I don't think we did.
I don't think so. I think you were waiting for the other project.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to clear the air, right? Right, and we brought both projects back. Okay.
Right. So I think we need to get something back from you proposing the landscaping you want to install.
Okay.
To break up that wall. And then from that, we can put you on, Michelle, are we considering these changes, assuming we get the revised landscape plan, are we looking at these changes as minor in nature where they wouldn't require a public hearing? Or was there something in here that required a public hearing as far as the tanks and the?
I think they were just back because they had some violations to their site plan, so I think as long as they remedy those.
It can be done by motion.
Correct. I mean, it's up to you guys whether or not you deem it to need a public hearing, but I think a minor site plan is fine.
Okay, so I want to.
I'm sorry, in keeping with your earlier theme though, can we, you know what's going to come out of there already?
Yes.
Can you send that note to us so like this weekend, probably at least half of us will be traversing that?
That's what I was going to come back to, is do we want to set a specific time for a site visit versus each of us go on our own? I'm fine either way, I just, if it's easier to put.
As long as we have the list and can see clearly what's going to come out.
Well, if Mark can be there with
Should
us,
be everything
and we
behind the
schedule
marquee.
the site plan.
Can I put this?
Sorry, site.
It's basically they run hand in hand. This plan obviously is the piece across the street, which Alan purchased. Everything, the hoop houses, the trailers that are behind there, all that equipment is going to be relocated to the other side that are behind that, the stockpiles now. There was a hoop house that was in the front, next to the fuel tanks. That's going to be relocated right here. That plan also has a salt shed on it that we're bringing in from Daly Road. And so that, all that back there will be nothing but the concrete block.
Okay.
Which is what was supposed to be there.
So again, I'm asking the board, do we want to schedule a site visit, or would you rather go on your own? I'm fine either way.
I mean, I'm out there
I've been there, yeah.
Out there regularly?
3 or 4 times a week.
Okay. Okay. All right, so we will go look between now and, do you think you'd have landscape plan back to us shortly?
Oh, yeah, we'll have it right away.
Okay, then we can, we'll either tie the discussion for this to whatever we need to do for the next application, or we can bring it in separately. We'll
Okay.
just see where we end up with it, but bring something back to us, and then we can put you on for discussion again.
Will do.
Anything else before we close this discussion? Just so to
I
spread that
had just
going?
one comment, and it's just basically the way things are depicted on the plan. The fueling, there are fuel tank locations, I mean, the vehicles are going to have to drive to those fuel tanks, right?
Correct.
So if you look at the site, the way it's laid out, it doesn't even show any access to the fuel tanks. Now, my drive-by there was that it's pretty much all gravel in there. It's not delineated with grass. So the plan should just, if that's what it's going to be, that's what the plan should show.
No, I got your comment. We'll plan on it.
And I don't know if that relates to any issue with the septic, Pete.
Well, you know, Joe brought that up about it's not ideal to have traffic running over top of the septic system, but what is the septic system?
It's
Is it
SDR.
tile?
Yeah, it's
Huh?
tile. I did speak to, we talked about this when the plan came in first, and we agreed that if there was a problem, there'd failure, we would replace it with perforated SDR 35.
Okay. Well, unless, I mean, it seems like they already went ahead and added, you know, the fuel tanks. Short of, you know, relocating, you know, the fuel tanks, you're always still gonna have the concern of, you know, vehicles, trucks driving over top of the septic system. But if Brent, so you're saying that whole area there, you know, is gravel, there's not really anything delineated, right?
Right. So instead of having those delineated parking spaces and,
It's
you
just
know, grass,
wide
it should
open.
just be, it just show that gravel pattern.
Because I don't
that you
think
have.
it exceeds the acre, right? I mean, I don't think that's an issue.
No.
We asked
No.
that question a while back, and I don't think you exceed the acre. if you
No, it's
show
just
it
that
as-
when he got out there, obviously, you know, the tractor trailers get in there, I mean, it all, you know, runs amok behind the fence, so. But I agree, we'll show
Just
it
to
as
be
gravel.
accurate.
Yeah, we will, we'll show the gravel in there in lieu of what we show now.
And obviously, if you have a problem with the septic, you're gonna have to fix it. so.
Yeah, and we did talk to, I believe it was Marie, and she said, if you have a failure, if the crush a pipe, then we'd have to replace with SDR 35.
And you know where your tank is?
Yeah, it's actually right out, that's actually in a pavement.
I'd be more concerned with that failure than the leach field.
Yeah, that's actually in the pavement, so that we believe was H20 loaded as designed.
Anything else we need to review for this one? Then the next item on the agenda, Mark, if it's okay, we'll just jump right over to the next one. Lehigh Lawn and Landscaping 2 site plan on Sprout Creek Court. This is the property across from the location we were just looking at.
You know, it's almost like you should have put out a little 3D model with chess pieces, so you could move them, you know.
It's common. This project, as I just discussed, basically the purpose of this is, it's really no buildings, nothing that would require a septic or a well. What Alan would like to do is he'd like to put a salt shed here, and also the seed containers and any of the 2 stockpiles that were in the front yard, we've relocated to this area. This area will remain gravel here for parking. We are proposing a fence around it, and there is a proposed rolling gate here. So really, this thing will accept all the hoop house and everything else that was to come from the other site to this site.
So, Mark, is the parcel now owned by the
I believe-
applicant?
It's in contract, sorry.
In contract, okay, so do we have the current owner's consent for any changes, or do you expect to close before?
I believe we submitted it as, I think we had to.
I just want to make sure you have all the right signatures
I think we
for
do.
the application.
Mark, tell us about the fence.
The fence is, goes around to just
So I
basically.
mean, how big is it?
Oh, it's, 6 foot, 6 foot high, chain link?
It's chain link, okay.
Just to keep, obviously, people from.
Okay, so it's not a visual screen, it's just a security.
We're gonna put razor wire in the top.
Okay.
Kidding. And that's really it. I mean, the site, we are proposing a site light, which Michelle pointed out. It's a great idea to use basically something infrared that senses you're there and then operates only when you're there. Because he does go at night to get the salt when he's running snow and such.
Okay,
So-
and it'll be fully shielded.
Fully shielded. Yeah, we actually submitted, I believe we submitted a lighting plan which
I can't
showed.
remember if it was a wall pack or if it was
It's
on
a wall
pole.
pack, but since it's motion, or I did, it's, you know, it will be, it's okay if it's not. I mean, it obviously should be directed as little as possible to interfere with any neighboring properties, but because it won't be on continuously and only, and it's an industrial area, I
And
think
for
it's
the,
okay.
for the salt shed, Mark, you've got a floor to that? So
Yeah, it's on a
not gonna leach
concrete
and-
floor, correct.
Okay,
There's-
concrete floor.
Yep.
I mean, there's
Does
zero
it-
chance of leaking is what I got. out
Right.
of it.
I got water stop in it, so it will not leak. And it will be covered with a vinyl. There's an existing vinyl, lack of a better term, structure that goes over the one on Daly Road. And we're bringing that here.
Okay.
So, I mean, how do you monitor that to make sure it isn't leaking? Because again, as you know, there've been a number of these sites, most
Right, so
notably
the
by the
question
DOT
is the salt
that have leaked.
corrosive to
but-
the surface that you're putting down that'll be
The
sitting on?
concrete, it can be, but you can treat it. You can treat it for that. You can treat it with, an epoxy or.
So are you recommending that?
Yeah, we will be putting it. And I spoke to Scott, sent me a memo, I believe, earlier, about putting frost footings on it. We'll do that.
Yeah, that's a building department thing.
So we'll do that as well.
Would you, and maybe you just don't have the durability putting asphalt in the bottom of it, or asphalt,
You mean over the concrete?
or just asphalt?
I would think
Asphalt
concrete,
section.
my experience with concrete, when you get into that, it moves too much. You get a little, concrete, I mean, we're proposing, I think, a 6-inch pad.
Right.
So I think it's probably going to be more durable than asphalt. Because remember,
You just won't have to worry about the salt leak.
yeah, but they make a hardener, they make an epoxy coating now that, a lot of these structures, the municipalities have them where they actually come up along those sidewalls, they'll put in epoxy coating, which will protect it. I mean, it's
Now you
got a lifespan.
But you do have a loader bucket scraping the bottom, so I don't know
Right.
how durable that epoxy is to that type of abrasion.
It's pretty durable. I mean, if you want to see asphalt, I would do asphalt over the concrete.
I'm sure there's a preferred, or some kind of industry standard as,
Well, I mean, I know the ones that we've done, they typically have used, asphalt, but I mean, if you're confident in, concrete, I mean, I know most of the ones.
I
we-
think we're saying
problem with
concrete with
asphalt
some
is-
type of epoxy overlay.
You get a loader on asphalt, you're going to peel it right up. Yeah, it will. It'll peel before concrete.
right outside with a loader and do a little test. I mean, I'm not worried about that.
What about, the mixing? I mean, are they gonna be mixing anything
No.
outside? I mean, but they're gonna be loading trucks outside?
Right.
So so you have, potential, for spillage outside while, they're loading. I mean, I think maybe we should think about
So
having.
do you have an
an
apron on this, Mark, or
No,
something that?
there's no apron. I don't believe any salt shed has an apron on it that I'm aware of.
So maybe this is where there should be some sort of asphalt
Yeah, I
leading
mean-
up to the loading area or paving the loading area? Is that what we're saying?
I'm sorry, spillage of,
When the loader's
Salt,
loading
when
the truck,
when they're
at 2
loading the
o'clock in
truck.
the morning, there's always going to be some.
They're gonna go in, scoop it out, back out, and dump it in a truck outside the salt shed.
okay, but I mean,
They missed the truck.
okay, then I would assume kind of clean it up.
Well, I just want to be
Isn't-
clear.
Isn't most of this salt
It's on gravel.
Yeah, but
going to be distributed?
but let's say the town goes down the middle of the road.
So Mike, what you have
And-
right here is wetlands right in the back,
Okay.
and you have a salt shed right next to the buffer. Well, not right next to it,
Right.
sorry, some distance away from the edge of the buffer.
And you have wells. Everyone there is fed off wells.
and
Yeah,
good
but
wells.
let's
So
not
you're
forget,
talking
guys.
about loading on gravel where there
Well-
may be some spillage as they load the truck. So we're just seeing, is there a way to limit?
Are we
salt
forgetting that we
removal?
salt that road? We salt 376? I mean, last year, I remember being at the light at Robinson Lane and watching a DOT truck dump 50 pounds of salt right in front of me. I mean, there is salt. They salt that road, they salt this road. I'm not gonna say there's not gonna be some spillage, but he's buying this, so he's gonna be real careful about it.
Mark, why is it pushed so far back? Why, I mean, again, if it's, the trucks are
So
coming
he
in.
could get some truck, remember we were taking some of the parking off the other site to put in here, and he's moving some of his equipment from Daly Road to here. So he'd like to be able to park it. The salt shed's only used for 3 months out of the year. So it just lends itself that he should use the front of the property the most.
I think we could do a little research on that, though.
Yeah.
Agree on something.
Well, what does the town have? I mean, what's the town do when they load their trucks? And I've been there, and I know they don't have a loading dock, they don't have anything. The guy goes in with a loader, they turn around and dump it in the truck. And there's nothing out there, there's no asphalt out there.
I'm gonna go take a look, because I
Okay.
can't honestly speak to that.
Go to the one down to the DOT on Prentice Drive, that's,
Exactly, there's a contaminated site. down there.
but that's contaminated because they never, but they never had a cover on it, people. That's why that was contaminated. There was never a cover on that. So I don't want to start acting like salt's the greatest thing. It's not, but we use it to de-ice our roads.
I don't think we have a concern with the salt being there. We're just trying to make sure we put the appropriate mitigation in place to try to limit.
Okay.
It's right next to wetlands. It's not a road. And it's not paved.
Correct.
So we
All
just want
right.
to make sure we've done what we need to do as
Okay.
far as protecting. If you give us the detail on the base of the shed with the epoxy coating.
Okay.
We'll have that. And then Scott will follow up with whatever you see as far as the loading, I'll call it the loading zone for the salt shed. If
Okay.
there's something else needed there, we'll follow up with you, Mark.
Okay.
So again, this is mostly gravel parking, and it's going to store vehicles overnight or for the summer when you don't need them, and for the winter when you don't need them, just depending
Right.
what the season is. So there will be
Correct.
some long-term storage, but not years and years. It's just going to be on-season, off-season type
Right,
stuff.
it's whatever static vehicles that they're not using for the season.
Okay. And do you have, is all of your wetland demarcation up to date?
We did,
So has it been
we did.
reflagged and?
We did have it done again.
Okay.
We, I believe, provided a letter. There is one error on this plan, which I found out today after reading one of Michelle's comments. For some reason, this buffer hooks. It doesn't do that. You can see this is the edge of the wetland.
Okay.
And for some reason, this actually hooks, making it look like these fences would be in the buffer.
Okay.
This one actually out here, this one does the same thing. I'm not really sure why.
Okay.
But that really doesn't do
So you'll
that. That
correct
actually
that.
runs, as you can tell, parallel. It doesn't hook like that.
Okay.
So we will correct that.
Okay. And the fence does go all the way around, right? 360?
Right, it goes out and around and back to the
Okay.
front.
Are there any other permanent structures or long-term structures? I saw trailers marked, I thought. Are
Yeah.
those going to be there year-round or?
Right.
Now, are they still on wheels or are they?
Some of them, I think they're sea containers, right? Are those they're basically sea containers, the boxes.
Are they the same trailers that are?
Correct.
So those tan trailers that you saw
Okay.
in the picture?
So you're
will
just
be
moving them from the
moved.
current? Oh,
Right.
Correct, so
Okay.
they're off
All
that
right.
site.
All right.
Mark, didn't we also talk about the backup alarms?
Yes.
Going with the sonar on the loading equipment, and I don't know how the trucks are geared, but, at the middle of the night in the winter, that sound's going to travel.
Yeah, we can do that. I think we talked about it. I think it's.
Is that just for the salt equipment or do you want it for all equipment operating at the site?
I think what our practice has been, any equipment confined to the site would have that sonar.
Okay.
This is a little unique because you're going to have a lot of trucks in and out, and you really don't want to disarm those trucks because they're out in parking lots and things like that. So I don't know if we can do much with the trucks, but certainly anything that's used for loading.
Okay. So the loader and the salt trucks?
Yeah, we'll put it on any equipment that's,
Okay.
I believe Alan has it on all his equipment anyway, OSHA requires it, so.
Okay.
But they make a sonar that it's not just beep, beep, beep for the sake of it.
Right, it just
only
senses.
beeps when it senses.
Correct.
Okay. Anything else that we need to go over on this one?
I had one comment relating to just the access. I'm presuming it's a manual gate.
I don't know, it'd be probably electronic, right?
Okay, well, maybe that could be specified. My comment relates to the fact that people are going to be coming in and out of the site and having to open and close the gate. If it was a manual gate, they would pull out with a vehicle, get out of that vehicle, go back and close the gate, and that vehicle would probably be encroaching onto Sprout Creek Court. So there's some unused area, and there's a lengthy throat that goes back into where you're going to gravel and have parking. So my thought was, can the gate be moved back such that a vehicle could exit and not be encroaching on the road while
waiting for the gate to
while
close.
waiting for the gate, or someo's going to close
That'd
the
be the
gate.
same concept if they're waiting to turn in, that they wouldn't have to sit on Sprout Creek to turn in.
How far back do you want to go?
Well, I don't know exactly what the trucks are, but I'm just looking at the scale of it. And then the only comment related to that would be, again, you can determine whether you think that's a reasonable solution, comment there. But,
Well, my only problem with the roll-up gate, they really don't handle 90 degrees. You can't come up, go 90, and then roll out here. They really parallel the fence. So what I'm thinking
so could
is,
the whole fence line just move back?
well, I'd like to ask if it's possible. It's a cul-de-sac, there's nobody on it.
Yeah.
No one drives down that road. So for his people to wait in that area there, while he's, I'm
It's not much of an issue, is what you're saying.
I'm not trying to say that, but yeah. So,
I
don't think
Brendan,
it's-
if that was a state road or a busy town road, I
Yeah.
agree with you 100%, but to Mark's point, that's a pretty,
Okay.
not a heavily traveled
The only
road.
thing I relate to that is, and again, I'm not sure of the scale, but just even the length of the apron, whether that could be, at least go beyond.
Yeah, we could do that, sure.
The length of what?
The length of the asphalt apron, just to keep, the stone and stuff from kicking out onto the road.
Yep, we can do that.
And I imagine most of the bulk deliveries or the salt's going to be in trailers, I would imagine, right? So,
And they did, just to note too, Mark did move the entrance, whatever direction that is, to the
Yeah, to
south.
the-
So it avoids the existing drainage system on Sprout Creek, which is something we commented on.
Good.
So does this need a public hearing?
Yeah, this should need a public hearing, because it doesn't currently have a site plan, right? So I think we need to put this one into public hearing. Are we comfortable scheduling it now? I know there's a few changes that are needed, but I think.
Yeah, and I think, although the circulation will be small, we do have to coordinate it, so you and I can talk about, because we don't have to have the typical, all the people that we typically involve, but we do have to do circulate.
Oh, you mean, okay, circulate for lead agency.
Yeah, for
Okay.
So
coordination.
do I have a motion for the planning board to circulate for lead agency on the Lehigh Lawns and Landscaping 2 site plan?
So moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any opposed?
And then, just so you know, after reviewing the code with the town attorney, we discovered a hidden section, or a section that was not easily found, that sort of requires that every commercial site plan go to the ARB, even when it's not in, whenever there's any structure. In this particular case, it would go anyway, because it was in an industrial district.
Right.
So, because there's a salt shed now, it technically has to be referred to the ARB, with the understanding that this is a structure that's it's being relocated.
It's being moved
Correct.
to this site, it's not.
But it's technically, we need to refer it to the ARB.
Is there any way that this board could refer to the ARB and just say, it's not like I can add cultured stone to it, I can't put a cupola on it?
We can have that discussion
Yeah, we can.
with Paul when
do
we
that
have the pre-meeting.
When we
Okay.
send it over.
Yeah.
But, so, Mark, it looks like,
You want to call me Mike. You've been wanting to call me Mike all night.
I said Mark.
I know.
You haven't earned that honor.
I was gonna say, be careful what you wish for. Mark, I don't think September 15th is enough for the
All right.
circulation to come back, so October
Okay.
1. October 6th.
For the public hearing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That assumes you can get the circulation out before roughly the 1st of September.
Okay. Yeah, we can.
Advertising still 25 days ahead.
Was it your intent to try to get the salt shed in this year?
Yeah, if we could.
So I don't know how tight that starts.
there's no existing site plan, it's got to have a public
Yeah.
hearing. September
If you
15th
wanna-
isn't enough time for the circulation.
I mean,
to come back.
the reality with circulation is, and that we do not have to wait. It's not required that you wait the full 30 days, it's recommended. In this particular case, there's not that many agencies involved, and it's a smaller circulation, so we can not wait the 30 days with your understanding that if somebody comes back and wants to be lead agency, which pretty much never happens, we have to then start the process again, okay? But
Only if we had closed the public hearing prior to that.
yes, yes, but I'm saying for lead agency, if anyone comes back and says, after we've already made a determination, a secret determination, and already talked about, and they challenge us for lead agency, then we might have to go back in the process.
Okay.
But we could technically
DC.
circulate and then declare ourselves lead agency.
So Mark, if you want to do that, then that would be the meeting on September 15th. You still can't make September 1st because you can't get your notices out.
Right, no, I understand. So, if the board's okay with that, if the September
And I'll-
15th.
The DC wouldn't challenge, right? 'Cause
It's not the
all
board being okay with it, it's you
No, but
guys
that
being
won't be
okay
interesting.
knowing that you haven't had the 30 days.
They
allowed
won't
to
challenge.
use it.
And if you want to submit your building plan ahead of time, just to
Okay.
try to save some time, we can redo that concurrently.
Okay, so we'll get all our paperwork in and the signs up and everything before the
We
15th.
try to get the circulation out as soon as possible
Yep,
as well.
and what I'll
So
do-
that there's been at least a few weeks for anybody, if somebody jumps on it and says, wait.
And I can call DEC and just make sure they are aware. Because that's the agency that I'm most concerned about, is DEC.
Okay, so do I have a motion to schedule Lehigh Lawns and Landscaping 2 site plan for a public hearing on September 15th?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, Mark. So the circulation for lead agency, and then just make sure all the notices and advertising go out.
Sorry, Al, sorry.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is the Foster Road professional.
You need to draft design on that pavement.
Nice. You got good friends here, huh?
Everyone contact.
And this is, I'm sorry, Foster Road professional Maselli parking expansion on Foster Road and Route 82.
Correct.
Alfred Capelli, architect, for Dr. Sinha.
Welcome.
Whenever you're ready.
We're ready.
Okay. So as we were here several months ago, adjacent to the Foster Road Professional Building, which is on the corner of Foster Road and Route 82, we're looking to purchase, currently under contract, with the adjacent parcel known as the Maselli residence, and we're looking to expand parking onto that lot, what we call Phase 1, limited number of parking spaces, to ease the parking conditions at the medical building at Foster Road, and to expand, as we discussed previously, perhaps some additional square footage into the second floor of the Foster Road, the two medical buildings. We're doing limited parking because the Masellis are looking to maintain the existing house and some of the other appurtenances on the property, some of the outbuildings, the swimming pool, the fence area. So the site plan suggests or illustrates trying to work around those elements without really encroaching on Mrs. Maselli's lifestyle by bringing parking right up to the house.
Okay.
So we have 13 additional parking spaces in the front, 6 additional parking spaces in the rear, 6 additional parking spaces on the side adjacent to the Maselli residence. And that's what we're looking to accomplish right now, what we call Phase 1. We did discuss at our last meeting in a narrative that we've prepared and we've since amended that at some point in time in the future, don't know when that's going to happen, there'll probably be some expansion of the use on the Maselli property. The lot line will probably be eliminated between the two properties, and it will become one parcel. It will be an extension of additional parking, if you will.
Al, can you just stand by the mic for us?
I'm sorry?
We can hear you, but I'm not sure if we're picking up your voice for the
Not a
public.
problem.
And this is good TV.
And I guess we talked at one time last month, or 2 months ago, 3 months ago, the possibility of raising the house, putting additional parking there, speaking with Dr. Sinha since then. Hey, Al, maybe that works out as a good business office for us, take business uses out of the medical building, increase the intensity of the medical uses in the Foster Road professional buildings, and maybe we'll put a business office there. But that's phase 2, that's phase 3, that's down the road. I don't know what we're going to do, and we tried to illustrate in another little drawing what we may or may not do.
Okay,
But
so we're fine with that, but I want to
Yes.
make really clear, this is only for the additional parking, the 13 spots in the rear and the 6 spots to the side?
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay, and any other changes with the use of the house or any other changes within this site, you'd still come back to us within a
100%. But we discussed that segmentation issue and the
Right.
fact that what the heck are we going to do with that? And we know we're going to do something with it.
Right.
And I don't want to necessarily illustrate on that phase 2. I was kind of reluctant to show something because it may change next year, 2 years, 3 years. When hey, Al, you showed this 3 years ago, but it's different.
It was important
It should
to
be
show us what the
understood.
full use of the site might be, and that's fine.
Right.
I just want to make really clear that any approval we did for your current request wouldn't include that. at this
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay.
And again, it could be completely different. And I know Joe had some comments about that Phase 2 sketch, which maybe we'll talk about his comment letter, but that's pretty much what we're...
Well, I think as long as it's labeled as conceptual only and not
Absolutely.
presently under
Yeah, we're
consideration,
not
I
worried
think we're
about it
fine
now,
with
Al,
as it's.
just later on.
No, absolutely, but Joe put some comments in there about, we're going to need some handicap parking there, change the plan and show some handicap parking. I don't want to
We don't
do
need to
that.
design that right now.
I don't want to
That's-
do that,
that's not
absolutely.
part of it.
So, those are the little stupid, not stupid, but I'm not changing the site plan to show what there may or may not be. And I know Joe mentioned a comment about possibly raising the building in the narrative. Well, we don't know what we're going to do, okay? So I want to leave that kind of
So I
loosey-goosey.
think what's important is just then make sure that the narrative and the drawings, if you think that there's several different ways you may go, just make sure that your narrative says that, so that when you present to us the potential use, it matches what your narrative said. I think what he's seeing right now is that there were two different things, one thing said in the narrative and one thing shown in the drawing. So that's all we're saying, is just make sure you have your bases covered as far as that goes.
Well,
So
the
that
narratives-
application, all the pages of the application match up.
I suppose. I could,
That's a small change.
that's fine,
to include
that's
it.
fine.
I have two questions if I could.
Sure.
One, there was the back page that kind of says it all. You require 68 parking spaces for the full use of the Foster Road site. This gives you an additional 13, bringing the 55 to 68. So this now meets all the criteria?
No, let me, I'm going to take 2 steps back if I can, Michelle,
Sure,
okay?
go ahead.
And explain this. I had more than 2,000 square feet up in my attic space of Foster Road. I am basically saying I'm backing into the square footage with the yield of parking that I'm getting. If I wanted to really add another 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 spaces on the Maselli lots, I can gain more space, usable space up in the attic, which I have.
How much extra space is there up there?
Oh, I probably have, I think I gave it to us once, maybe in an earlier, maybe 3,500, 4,000 square feet. Don't hold me to that. I can get you that for the next
Additional?
meeting.
It's on the plan.
Additional, not,
It's on the plan. It's on the plan.
total on top of, right, in my little triangular space.
Second floor.
Yes, the second floor, that's correct. I'm not exactly doubling the space because it's a Cape Cod design, so I have limited use upstairs. But I do have more, and I may, as part of phase 2 or what have you, say, gee, we're going to add more parking in the front or wherever, and I'm going to want more square footage on Foster Road, perhaps in addition to office space in the Maselli house.
All
But
right,
that's,
So tell us right now, just walk us through.
Yes.
What space will be used at the Foster Road site and the parking that's required, and the parking you're going to be providing for that use. Just walk us quickly through it.
I think the calculations come up to about 2,000 square feet, somewhere around there, additional square feet.
That's what you have.
And I don't want to be limited to which building I can add that square footage, in all due respect. If I can do that, I may want to add 1,000 to each building, because I have attic spaces in each building. And I don't know if that's proper for me to ask that, but I may not want to shoehorn myself into one building of 2,000 square feet. I might want to put 1,000 and 1,000.
Let's hold that until Scott's back, because I
Sure.
would want to run that. I'm not sure what the building department would require of you
Not
as
a
far as
problem.
what you're requesting right now. So let's, the interior of the building improvement isn't necessarily the planning board's purview unless and until
Right.
you're overusing the building and you don't have enough parking,
Sure.
which is where you are right now.
Right, so what I'm looking to do is say, okay, Al, you have 2,000 additional square foot to divvy up however you want. When we submit a plan to the planning board, up to the building department for a fit-up, for an office, for whatever, all of Dr. Sinha's.
We'll come back to that, but for now, just walk me through the total square footage you want to use, the parking that's required, and the parking that you're going to be providing with this proposal. The total square footage between the two buildings, even if we'll talk about shuffling it in a minute.
Okay, let's get back here and... I have 4,800 and 3,400 currently, 8,200 square feet currently at Foster Road, the footprint of my two buildings.
8,200 square feet.
8,200 square feet.
Plus what on the second, for second floor space usage?
I'm looking for an additional 2,000 square feet.
Okay. And so how many parking spaces does 10,200 square feet require for you?
55 and 13, I believe the number is 68
Correct.
that I need.
So is that the correct calculation based on the square footage as opposed to the number of spaces on the plan? Correct. I get 868 on, okay. Okay, so the extra 6 in addition to, you said the 13 in the back?
13 and 6, yes, 13 in the back.
So you have more parking than you need right now, is that correct, with this proposal?
If I do not expand to the second floor, I have more parking than I need. If you grant me the 2,000 square feet,
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm going to stop, I'm sorry.
That's fine.
'Cause I want to make sure I understand, because we've had miscommunications before, so just, you're going to bear with me while we
that's
walk
fine,
through this slowly.
not a problem.
I thought you said there were 13 spots to the rear of the property, is that correct?
Yes, the rear is...
And you have 6 spots down to the side?
Yes.
In addition to 55 already on your site?
That's correct.
So 55 and 13 plus 6, I'm getting 74, is that correct?
No,
So
we have...
What's
No.
different?
There's actually 45 existing spaces. Well, there's actually 47, but they're going to lose 2 spaces when they construct the new parking.
I
So
need
there's-
55 spaces. I only have 47, or as Michelle corrected me, 45, because I'm eliminating 2 to do a driveway.
And they're proposing to add 21.
Proposing at 21, I thought I
Eventually,
heard
though.
6 in the front and 13 in the back, that's 19. Or is it 8 in the side?
No, there's,
There's 13, I'm sorry, 13, 2, and 6.
Okay, perfect, okay.
13, 2, and 6, 3 different locations.
All right, so you're going to have 66 total,
Right,
45 plus 21,
right.
and you're required to have
68. So for 2,000 square feet, I'm too short. So you may say tonight, you can't have 2,000 square feet. You can have 1,700 or whatever the calculations are, because you don't have,
And you're certain you can't fit 2 more parking spaces somewhere?
I probably can, but I don't, again, I want to maintain the lifestyle to some degree here.
Okay.
We have a lot of landscaping, we have a lot of fencing to try to protect the neighbors and Mrs. Maselli from the encroachment of the additional parking areas. I think we did a good job in that regard. And so that's what we're going to be discussing tonight. If you say, no, Al, the numbers have got to be hard numbers, then 66 spaces yields X number of square feet, and that's all we're giving you. And so it may be less than 2,000 square feet, divvied up now that Scott is here, however you want to divvy it up in whichever building.
Well, Lori,
So
one
Scott-
more thing I think that, needs to be considered is where you put that extra space and where the parking is going to be. I mean, if right now, there's a site that actually doesn't have enough parking.
Right.
So it's highly utilized. So if you're gonna add more square footage to, I don't know the numbers of the building, but building 1, but the only place to park is in the furthest reach of the parking lot, it's not really in the correct spot. So, I mean, that's just another thing to sort of consider about where you're going to allow that other, the development. I mean, it's in close proximity to building 2, but it's not in close proximity to building 1 necessarily, but
So
it's not a
how many
huge site
employees
either.
do you have in building 2 right now?
I can't give you the exact number right now.
Roughly, is it 5, is it 10, closer to 25?
The building in the back? No, it's probably 10 staff members.
Okay.
I mean, we could have the staff members park, as far away as possible. I mean, I don't want to say, I don't want to become argumentative. There's nothing that suggests where my parking is necessarily in relation to the building. So if I have to walk an extra 20 steps, it is what it is. I mean, again, trying to make everything work here.
Well, it's not that too. It's also, the safety of the person. If it's just walking through a parking lot to get to a sidewalk in front of a building, but if you actually have to walk through the aisles of where people are driving.
I can park across the street and get special, I can walk across the street and park with your approval and with certain things. I don't even have to park on site in East Fishkill. So I'm trying to keep everything on site. Remember, we were here a couple of months ago because Dr. Sinha parked across the street. He parked at the church with buses and everything else. We're trying to make a situation the best we can.
But Al, with the intention of those additional spaces to the rear, would they be for the employees of Dr. Sinha
I have no problem
versus patients?
Sure, I have no problem. It only makes sense that Dr. Sinha would, and if it's a stipulation of the board, I have no problem with saying, and he would be the first one to say, absolutely, my patients have to be as close to the front door as possible. So I don't think that's a unreasonable request or something we'd have to add to the
It's
site
something
plan.
we typically do, especially if there's remote parking. We try to make sure that's employee parking.
That's fine, that's fine.
Hey, Al, I think this board really appreciates the way that you are trying to mitigate the variances for the site, really. But it just seems, that what I struggle with is this game of, there's a proposal in here somewhere, see if you can guess what it is. I mean, can't you come in here and say, here's the number of parking spaces we're adding, and hopefully not have the Michelli's lawyer sending us a letter making sure we know that the deal is not closed, but get it.
It was asked of me, I'm sorry, Michael, somebody asked me, just last week, is this in contract? What's the status of the sale?
Okay.
And I called Sinha, and he called up Rick Romig, and basically, that's where the letter came from, because somebody asked me.
No, that's
would-
fine.
we
That's
would
fine.
assume that-
We asked
Okay,
you.
but
Okay.
I would assume that we could assume that it wasn't closed, so Al,
That's
either
fine.
way, in negotiations, I'm struggling with the fact that you haven't identified which 2,000 feet you're gonna use, and what the other space will then stay at. Like, for example, raw storage, because I think that's the way it was originally billed, was the extra space was all gonna be raw storage. And, this is specifically what we're gonna do with the space, so it's this nice, clean quid pro quo that says, we're adding these spaces, and we're taking advantage of this internal space. Boom.
I understand what you're saying. Obviously, I don't see it that way. I think and again, I'm looking for X number of square feet, and whether I put 2,000 in the attic of building 2 and keeping the attic of building number 1 empty for now, or I put 1,000 and 1,000, I don't know what it means from a planning point of view. From a planning point of view, what does that mean to us here?
Well, we were waiting for Scott to come back.
Right.
So we can go through that now. Scott, what the
Yes.
applicant is requesting is he believes that he has enough parking for, give or take, the 8,200 square feet, that includes the bottom floor space of both building 1 and 2 on the Foster Road site, and an additional, and I'm going to say roughly 2,000 square feet, although he's 2 parking spots short to fully use 2,000 square feet upstairs. And he's asking, can he pick and choose how he splits that finished footage between the 2 buildings upstairs? He doesn't want to commit to that right now because he's not sure how he wants to use that space. Are you comfortable that that's the building department, as long as you know it's limited to 2,000 total between the 2 buildings, is that okay for the building department to deal with that? Would you prefer us to specifically allocate the space on the plan?
Is this ultimately going to be one lot?
Yes.
I mean, it's one lot, it's one plaza. I'm not so concerned which building he dedicates, as long as we take provisions for pedestrian access.
But he doesn't want to commit to it
I
right
get
now,
that.
so we'd leave
So-
it open on the
so
plan
take
that
the
he can
worst
finish
case.
up to 2,000 square feet between the 2 buildings.
But why not just take the worst case and make sure you got proper pedestrian access to the worst case? This way his hands aren't tied, because maybe he doesn't know.
Set aside the concern with the parking lot, set aside the concern with the sidewalks. We're just talking about, does the building department need us to specify the interior space, which interior space will be improved within the 2 buildings? Because he's going to have, I'll call it 2,000.
Oh, you want to just say that he's got a capacity of 2,000.
Right, that's what he's asking.
and we
Do
can-
I have to choose which 2,000 feet I'm going to improve? And again, I'm using 2,000 loosely because we're 2 parking spots short of that
I think
right
it's
now.
going to apply to the site. It doesn't matter whether it's building 1 or building 2, it's going to apply to the site. That site is good for X amount of square feet.
And if he takes 2,000 feet off the bottom floor of 1, he could put all 4,000 upstairs on the other if he wants.
We can track that.
Okay. All right, so that's
And the
your
health
answer.
department's
building
going to track it
department
too. At the end of the day, the health
So
department's going to track it.
what we would do is require you to put a stipulation on your site plan that just says the maximum built square footage, usable square footage, is going to be limited to a certain number of square feet.
10,000.
And then the
Right.
building department would be able to monitor the
The only
finished square
thing
footage.
that I want to go so far as to add is because, take the clock back, you had some finished square footage that we temporarily shielded or blocked, what have you. In my mind, if you're now going to take that 2,000 square feet and put it someplace else, then you got to restore that finished area back to rough area. That would be the caveat.
That's fine, we'll include that square
Because I don't want to
footage.
have a new 2,000 and still have that stuff hanging out there.
We'll include that existing finished space now as part of the 2,000 square feet. I have no problem with that.
Or you can gut it and move it someplace else
Or I
if you
can
want.
get it and move it someplace else.
Okay.
And the confusion, Michael, just to clarify, the 68 versus 66, and why are we showing 66? My error. I had 68 on the narrative, the application, and everything. Michelle called me up and said, hey, I'm only figuring 66. Whoops, I missed 2 spaces that I had to take out
okay.
for the
Thank you.
driveway. So basically, in between the application and where we are today, so that's where we are. So I can amend the application, I can amend the narrative to say 66, and if you want to reduce the square footage, or reduce the square footage, if that's so...
Yeah, you already have a parking issue at the site, so
Yes.
either reduce the square footage or add the 2 spaces you'd need to get to the
Okay.
2,000.
So there's not going to be any gimme for the 2
No.
spaces? Wink,
No.
wink. Okay, fine, not a problem. That's fine. Not a problem at all. Okay.
I'm sorry, does anybody disagree?
No, we agree. No, we agree.
Site, we already know there's
We're well
parking
aware of
issues
that.
here, so I want to make sure.
Yeah.
Right.
And we seem to have a in-place.
I don't want to
monitor.
squeeze parking in
Seems to be
wherever.
tracking.
I want to have it, I can get more parking there, but, you know, I don't want to really bastardize things, you know, anymore over there.
That's part of the special permit.
So you could pick
I'm
up
sorry,
on
we
there.
can't hear what you guys are talking about.
One of what Scott is asking is if there's a way to go down to 9 by 18, because these spaces are currently 10 by 20, which are fairly large. And I was saying, you know, we've done that before where we've had 9 by 18.
For a portion.
For a portion, and employee parking is actually the best place to do that, because,
Right.
but that's part of, there's a part of the special permit allows you to do that if they want to waive the special permit requirements for the,
maybe you
special
get
permit
your
for
spaces
parking,
back.
you can do that.
Yeah, I did not, right, I'm not asking, and thank you for suggesting that. You know, I could reduce the size of the parking spaces
If you're going to specifically allocate them to employees, that would probably be fine. If that gives you your 2 extra spaces, that's fine with us.
if it's okay with you guys.
Yep.
It's fine.
See, what a deal tonight, huh, Al?
Yeah, you're good.
But again, I come back to pedestrian access, you know.
Yeah, right, we haven't gotten that far.
We
We
haven't gotten-
were just starting to talk about the parking calculations, Scott. We
Safe
didn't get to the
pedestrian
actual site circulation or any of the pedestrian walkways. So Al, do you want, and I'm sorry, do you have a plan to put up on, I didn't realize you didn't have your plan on the screen.
Do we have it somewhere? Where is it?
There's a laptop.
Okay. So you want me to do it, or do you want to do it?
Thanks,
disc on here?
Yeah, if you don't, I'm sorry, I didn't realize it wasn't up on the screen. So Al, just walk us through your site circulation now. So with the new spots, with your existing plan, just show us where pedestrians enter the building, how you're circulating the site.
Pedestrian access is not going to change. It enters in the
We have new parking,
front.
so how are
I have new
pedestrians-
parking. There is currently no plans for sidewalks or any other pedestrian means to get from my remote parking lot to the front door. I'm walking.
Is there an employee entrance that employees
Yes,
use towards in
yes.
the back of the
Yes,
building?
there is.
I don't think you need a sidewalk, it has to be ADA compliant.
Oh, no, I'm putting another dropped curb, it's on the plans, in the back right-hand corner of the building. So that's already illustrated. I have my drop curbs in the front, and I'm adding one on the side. I don't have, that's the existing conditions plan. We can go to the next one. And I'm sorry, I don't have a zapper. Oh.
It says to press
You always
back.
Another deal tonight. See that?
Okay, that's
Is
probably.
that the one?
Yeah, that's fine, the S,
That was
the
it,
S2.
page 2. There you go.
Yeah, so basically what we have is the entrance to building number 2 in the rear is right where in the front facing Foster Road. The entrance to building number 1 is opposite Route 82 facing the interior portion of the parking lot. There's an access back door, you can see where the marker is there. And it's illustrated by the sidewalk that's there now, and it always has been there. And at the sidewalk, right there as well, is my drop curb. So people that are parking here, if their employees are going to walk along, on the pavement and come in the back door, or if it happens to be a patient, he's going to walk around to the sidewalk there and then continue. There's sidewalks all the way around both buildings, not all the way around, but in order to pick up any pedestrian traffic. But getting from the last parking spaces all the way on the west side, or south side is it, back in here, I'm walking in the blacktop to get to the sidewalk area right there. No sidewalks. No sidewalks only because someday this is going to be a parking area, and I don't want to rip up the sidewalks, as I'm going to have, two-sided parking there with the 25-foot driveway there.
So what if you just paved the extra width and striped it in some fashion?
Well, I also have an existing fence there that I'm moving partially now. I'd have to move some more. I suppose.
What if you pull the spots all the way in the rear forward 5 feet and run
there's a
a
fence there.
sidewalk along?
And I think I have 5 feet there. I think I have,
Yeah, she
actually,
does.
I have 3 feet. I have 3 feet.
Just-
Yeah, we can do that. I can move the fence.
Yeah,
Or
just run it right
or
along the backs of the
you could reduce the
parking
size of your,
spots.
yeah, because you got 20-foot parking stalls, right? And what's the requirement, 18, right?
Well, it's,
We're not talking about a raised sidewalk. We're talking about maybe a striped area
I'm thinking if you
Yeah.
want to go with a flush, but it's got to be striped.
on the blacktop, okay. I'm easy. That's fine. I have no problem with that.
I think you want to be able, especially during winter conditions and things like that, you want pedestrians to be able to walk and then have a crosswalk across your drive towards that back door.
And how wide would you want that to be? That striped area?
Minimum of 4 feet.
And 5, I think, for ADA, if you want it. I know it won't be a traditional sidewalk, but.
Okay, so I'm going to have to, you're giving me, right now I have 25
and 20, so that's 45 feet. If you're giving me 18 and 24, I think, in town, right?
I'm sure it was 24 or 26, we have to check that.
Okay, okay, so I'll have to double check that. So that's fine. I have no problem with that. Widening the pavement there, striping it, getting a little, walkway on the same level, not a problem.
Okay.
Hopefully I can move that fence over here.
But you may not have to.
You know?
Just a comment on the 6 spaces that are up front.
Yes, right there.
Right.
Yes.
What was the rationale for not just extending those parking aisles right out? And why have that little throat?
I wanted to, I had this thing where I wanted to not have the continuous blacktop. I wanted to have some green there, and maybe to have a little bit of green there and a little bit of green there. That was the only reason. Yeah, I could have grabbed 2 more parking spaces there. That could have been the 2 that I need.
Well, I just think it puts parking a lot closer to proximity to either building, that's all.
Yeah, I mean,
Right to the sidewalks there.
I could do that. It's and I would have continuous parking all the way up to the Maselli house, even though I have a fence between the house and the parking area. Yeah, we could do that. We could do that. Again, you want green or you want more blacktop? It doesn't...
Yeah, but you're some distance off 82 at that point, so I appreciate the green, but it's not like you're shielding anything.
No, but we don't put green just to satisfy you guys. Sometimes we want to satisfy ourselves too.
Appreciate that.
So, okay, so I'll massage that thought.
Okay. But you understand the space upstairs, assuming you're fully complete on the bottom floors, the space upstairs will be dictated by how many spaces you have.
Absolutely, 100%. Yes.
Okay.
Before.
And I'm sorry, just show me again, have you recalculated with the additional square footage, do you require any additional handicap spaces than what you have right now, or do you have sufficient?
I believe I have sufficient, but I'll double check again
Okay.
and make that a matter of record.
Okay.
This is yours.
Brendan, with the site circulation, do you have any concerns or
The
questions?
only
Are we
other
able to
question I
back
had-
out of the spots all the way at the end? Is there sufficient space to back in and out of those spots so we don't have somebody that pulls in and then can't get out?
Yeah, no, I think that's okay. I think the only circulation issue that I looked at, and I'm not sure you have to demonstrate it, is you relocated the dumpster area.
Yeah, I already sent that I'll get you a letter from Royal Karting, if that's okay. As opposed to showing movements, if they say that it's okay.
I'm almost wondering if it should be 90 degrees instead of this angle, because at the angle, then it's hard for him to...
No, basically what he's doing is he's either going forward or backing up, but he's always doing it at a 45-degree angle, and he's pulling out. I don't want him to make any more movements, right?
Well, if you had this at 90, he would pull in, pick up, back out, and go. Here, I don't know if he might have to do a several-point turn.
Yeah, I figured.
He's backing up towards the sidewalk
Back up into
potentially,
this little area is what
and he's
he would
backing
do.
up into the sidewalk though.
That's what he would do. He would back up. That's what I had anticipated. And the
Backing
movement
all
was-
the way out. You can pull him through.
So I'm sorry, can you just show us up on the plan where you're moving the refuse area?
Yeah, the refuse area is right there. Right now, it's at the end of the dead-end parking lot, and I'm creating a niche there, and had it at an angle to facilitate what I thought was easier access for the, guy who was picking up the garbage.
Okay.
And I sent to them, and he said it was okay, so I didn't go any further.
How often do you have pickups here? Do we have any, I think at one point we had some issues with the pickups here. Are they?
It was related to the blood pickups because they were picking
No, I
up.
thought there was
No, there was
also
also
refuse
that.
stacking up around the garbage
Oh,
area.
yeah,
Is
yeah.
that
It was
taken
both.
care of now, or are you getting pickups frequently?
I haven't gotten any letters. I don't know if you guys have gotten any letters.
No, we haven't.
So
All right, well,
I'm
but
guessing that it's okay.
No, my
Not on
point
that,
is,
no.
this is the time, because you have the space. If you need to double that size or have an additional bin or something like that, now is the time to allocate that space. You don't have to twist it. You can put it straight and have 2 bins if you need to.
That's fine.
Especially if you're talking about using additional space between the 2 buildings, you're potentially going to have additional refuse coming in.
Or is there another place to put it?
Right, I mean-
Because I know it was a source of contention with the adjoining property owner.
We tried to keep it in generally the same vicinity that it was. Everybody's used to doing it. Normally you put it at the end of a dead end, which I didn't want everybody walking that far. We didn't want it up here anywhere, so it's kind of tough.
That's fine, but I remember
We tucked it there.
it seemed too small.
That's fine.
In one of our previous discussions, this is your opportunity to make it larger if you need to. Michelle, let me come back to the pickups too, because I think, wasn't it lighting that was the concern with those?
Well, also, I think the person that was picking up the blood was leaving their car
Or the
door.
lab work or whatever.
Yeah, it was leaving their car door open, and it was really early, super early in the morning, and the music from the car and the slamming of the doors, I think, was an issue, so it was.
All right, so I'm assuming the doctor addressed that then.
I'm assuming too. I haven't gotten any other letters either, so
All right.
since then. But
For some reason, I remembered it, I thought it was the lights were coming on at odd hours. or
well,
something.
there was that issue. There were
No, it was-
issues about, some of the lighting was facing his,
Okay.
his house, what property we're talking about
All right.
here. So I
Well,
think that's all been
As you're
rectified.
talking about using more of the square footage, I want to make sure we've got stuff like that.
Right. We have an entirely
Understood,
different fixture
documented.
here, so
Okay.
hopefully we've
All right,
addressed.
and what about lighting for your parking lot in the rear? Are you going to
Yes.
have any lighting on the
Yes,
parking lot?
we are. And we have a light fixture that we've
We've got
selected.
like a
Full
gooseneck,
cutoff?
for lack of a better
Yes,
term.
full cutoff, yes.
Lighting fixture with a shield, like a shielded.
You have that on in your
dome on
plan
top.
here, and we
Okay.
have the, yes.
So lighting for the additional 6 spaces next to the house, is that also lighting? Are you making sure you're not shining light into the house or on the house?
Right now, there's a light pole right there, right where I'm creating a little,
Okay,
there's currently one of the older light fixtures. That is going to remain, and that's not going to change.
okay, but are you going to need to turn it so that it lights the additional paved area, or how are you going to make sure that area
Okay,
is
we'll take a look at that. Again, it's a double-edged sword here. We want to,
That's why I'm asking, do you
right.
need to put, another fixture there where it's full cutoff and isn't going to light the house versus?
Okay.
You're showing one right here. Is that where she's talking
Oh, I guess I did. I didn't even know I did. I guess I added another light. Same type of light fixture.
Okay, up to shine for the 6 spots.
Yes.
And it's going to be protected from the house, so it'll have side shielding or something?
It's a gooseneck fixture with a really long, all that cover.
And I'm sorry, just tell me where it is in the,
It's right there.
okay, so it's going to be facing basically its back, the post will be to the house and the light will
Correct.
curve over into the.
Correct.
Michelle, is there any, I don't know enough about how those fixtures cast light. If it's all the way towards the back, is it going to cast light out towards the house, or should it be fairly well shielded?
The way the photometric plan is showing, first of all, pretty low lighting, and it's also conforms to dark sky requirements, so that means it will all be down.
Okay.
So it's actually going to almost probably work like a flashlight, where if you're holding it like this, and it'll just going to cone down to the ground.
Okay, is it going to be sufficient to light all 6 spots then?
It's showing lighting levels within, let's see, I guess each square is 15 feet. Straight. Yeah, it looks like it will be. It looks like it'll be about 0.2 foot candles, which I think is sufficient light with 6 spaces.
All right, any concern with any light shedding on the house then? Or
I
does it
don't
look
think
fairly
so. I
well
think,
shielded?
well, there's a fence that's going to be behind the light fixture, so I think, I don't think it'll be shining on the
All right,
house.
thank you. Al, is there anything else we need to go over tonight as far as things that you're looking for or things that you're changing?
I don't think so.
Okay.
And I'm looking for the board to tell me and the staff what else you're going to be looking from, because we want to expedite the process, obviously. I'd like to get this parking lot in, not that it's your problem, but I'd like to do it
But
before the
You're
winter.
going to have to go through public hearing.
Absolutely,
But you're not ready
100%.
yet. You've got a few changes you need to make to the plan. So I want you to nail down exactly where you're putting your parking. I want you to nail down what you're doing with the refuse container, with the site circulation, the sidewalk. We need those things revised, and we'll want to see it one more time, I think.
The additional 2,000 square feet, is that going to require an expansion to your septic system? or-
No, and I'm going to get you a letter on that. So we've been taking meter readings, and we're way under. So I'm looking for
Well, if you
Marie
get
to sign
like
off
a
on
letter
it.
from Health Department.
That's correct, 100%. I was hoping that would be here by now, but you'll have it by the next meeting. Is there any reason why, I mean, the changes are so minor, I don't know why we couldn't schedule a public hearing and you see those changes.
We're going to need to circulate, so I think, don't we need these changes before we're circulating?
I don't know that we need to circulate on this one.
Yes, I do.
It's the acquisition of an additional parcel that's going to be
No
like
conflict with
hooked
us,
to this.
I have to go through the
It's
type,
been
the
sitting
type
on a
2
state
list.
highway.
They told me
Even
where
though
it
there
was
is an
stopped.
access from
But
that
there's no- I
parcel
don't
onto
remember.
the state
No,
highway.
it's not a problem.
If you think it needs to be circulated, then we should circulate. I mean, I think it's one of those ones that's sort of on the fence about circulation, but I think knowing.
All right, let's go back through. So you need to correct the application so that the future use of the site in the narrative matches your drawing, or at least includes the possibility of what you're showing as your drawing. Because right now, one's saying you're raising the building, and the other one's showing the building staying and being used as a future office. So just make sure your narrative is updated to say, raise the building or use as a future office, something like that.
I don't see either or?
Either or is fine.
Okay.
And no, just the one drawing is fine. We don't need to see both scenarios, but update the drawing. You need to make sure that your parking is sufficient for whatever square footage you're proposing to use. Right now, you got to get that to match up. Address the site circulation that Brendan talked about, including pedestrian access and pedestrian walkway, as well as the refuse container and the sizing of the refuse container, as well as any changes you might want to make to lighting and things like that, just in light of the new, I'm not sure you do need to make changes to lighting, but if you do, make sure you're proposing that. We talked about, you're going to look at where you have the grass, I didn't write this down, but you're going to look at where you have kind of the grass medians right now between your existing site and the side site. If you can shift those over and either give more space between you and the house, or add a couple parking spaces to determine how much space upstairs you're going to use. You need to figure all of that out.
Or leave it the way it is, right.
Right.
That's not a problem, absolutely.
Okay, and then, Michelle, did I miss anything?
I just have reduced the parking spaces in employee areas, check the handicap spaces, check the refuse container, add the refuse container if you need to, sidewalk, and then the letter from Dutchess County Health Department.
Okay, and then did we confirm, and I'm sorry, I had this as a question I forgot to ask earlier. Did we confirm the setback requirements and impervious surface calculations and things like that, now that we're...
We have, I mean, I looked at them, what he's calculated. I have not confirmed that independently.
Okay. Brendan, anything else like turning radius or site circulation, anything regarding traffic with the...
Well, the only other pedestrian, I know you talked about putting a new curb ramp up in the back. What about these areas? Like, is there a curb ramp anywhere in proximity here?
Yeah, Scott and I, we were looking at that too. I mean, you should, if you're going to keep that parking lot like that, you should look to add a sidewalk on.
Just extend
Right.
maybe to...
This and here, so these people can come right onto the sidewalk.
Then one other suggestion from that standpoint, I heard you guys talking about it too, was the garbage. What about this area in between these two
Work a
spaces?
miracle, Al. Come up with a better
Well,
spot.
it's in between the two buildings, the front,
Better access.
proximity, and you could shield it a little bit. And then even if you opened up this one to 2 more spaces, you might lose that space, but.
I don't know how Mrs. Maselli would like that dumpster waking her up every day when it comes at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. I thought the remoteness in the back, since they're used to walking it back there now out of the deepest bowels of the building. I mean, again, we can argue all day long about it. I'll look at that, but the dumpster may stay in the back. I'll review that.
But look at the sizing of it also, especially as you're looking to use additional square footage there. Or frequency of pickup, something to make sure that we don't have an issue.
I mean, honestly, I'm not keen on that angle and the truck backing up towards that sidewalk. I mean, if you can do some dimensions and show that it's not an issue, but I'm not keen on this being a pedestrian path and the garbage truck backing up now. if he comes at 4 o'clock in the morning, I mean, I don't know about all of that, but.
Depends, right? They come at some points for the garbage, some points for the recycling.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Brendan, anything else
And
from
if
your
you're
perspective?
gonna ultimately add 2,000 square feet in this building, what, 2? One? I mean, again, makes more sense to try to get that more centrally located.
No other comments.
Okay.
We'll look at.
Anything else from planning?
I mean, I think the only approval, I don't think there's any other agency involved, just the town for their.
As long as he can get a letter from the county health department that says that there's no impact.
And I have no
If
problem.
we don't need to
know that.
circulate, that's fine.
So I think we
But
can-
I want to just make sure,
I was just thinking through it, and I think.
this is a commercial use of what's presently a residential use. I don't want to not circulate and then realize we have to, and now we're waiting, 45 days before circulation happens, so.
It's just a.
And then, anything from Morris?
The only last thing, Al, is you should look at those two dead ends of the parking areas, because I think that's going to be the area where they're going to want to plow snow. And you've got a whole bunch of pine trees right at the end of that, the upper parking area, and they may not fare too well if that's where they're going to plow the snow and pile it. You may just want to look at it. And the same thing down at the other lot by the Mycelli residence. There's not a lot of room between the end of the parking there and the fence, and you've got, the light pole there, because they're going to need some area to plow snow and push it. And my guess is it's going to be on those dead ends, so I think you should just look at the landscaping and down in here, snow storage wise. Because they're just going to want to push it. Follow me?
No, I understand what you're saying, and I know it's an important part of the operations of the building, and I'm going to have to check the ordinance, because I thought I had to provide a 10-foot landscape buffer to the neighbor over there. And
over here?
That's what I tried to do over there, but maybe I'm wrong, and I just assumed save a couple $100 and not put the trees there.
Well, you could put the tree somewhere else. That doesn't mean you don't have to put them somewhere else.
Well, I mean, they were there for a purpose to block,
Is that true?
so, no, I understand what you're
You
saying.
just got to give some consideration to where they're going to put all the snow.
Well, like everybody else in the middle of the park.
No, but sometimes it
You know,
doesn't
I know,
work out.
I know.
And you lose 20 parking spaces
put-
because they don't have a spot
Two
for it.
here and two over here, and just not put those two in the middle. Whatever, we'll
Okay.
sure, that can all be.
We'll take a look at that. Okay, that's fine. No, it's good.
Okay.
To shrink the width of the spaces, then you gain some space too. You might be able to give yourself a
I
little buffer.
suppose. I was hoping to get a couple of spaces, but, okay, we can take a look at that. That's fine.
So come back to us with those changes one more time, and then if we don't need to circulate, we can schedule it for public hearing. If we do need to circulate, we'll take care of that at the same time.
Okay.
Michelle, I just want to make sure we get the plan that's going to be the proposal here before we circulate, because I don't want to end up circulating twice, especially if it's a small circulation.
This has got a county plan too, right, for 239.
As soon as you can get those changes back to us, we'll put you on the very next meeting for discussion. So, we need time to review whatever you submit to us, but we'll get you on for the next discussion.
Very good. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is Guardian Self-Storage amended site plan on Route 376. Thank you so much for your patience. I know this has
Good
been a
morning,
long
everybody.
meeting.
Come on.
It's like the old days.
Just give me a moment, I'll flip it in.
Sure.
I can do that.
Hey, guys, while we're doing that, I had a quick question for us. We get at the beginning of every meeting, we come in our folders, there's copies of all of the handouts that we receive electronically during the week. Do we need those copies? If we had a couple copies available, maybe at either end of the table, are we okay not?
That would be fine with that. That would be fine with me.
All right.
I was like, we went through them already.
Okay.
Could I borrow that laser?
Of course you can.
Should rent it out, tonight.
What you should have is a little tether line. So
Like the pens in the bank.
there you go. you want, you can start by giving us
Okay.
an overview.
Yep.
We'll get it up there.
My name is Frank Rettel. I'm the project manager for Herb Rettel Properties and Guardian Self-Storage, and with me this evening is Kelly Hardesty, one of the owners of Guardian. To give the board a little bit of history, Guardian Self-Storage received original site plan approval back in the year 2000. It allowed, just one more, Michelle. The next page? Oh. No, go back. Yeah, go back to just the very second page. Just the next one.
One more.
No, actually, you got to go back even farther.
Page 2?
Should be there. Well, this is, yeah, that's it, right there. The original site plan that was approved back in the year 2000 called for the erection of an office here and 12 self-storage buildings. The original plan had 4 buildings here. A couple of years after the original subdivision site plan approval, we came in and changed from 4 buildings here to 3. These 2 have been built. What remains and what was approved is one other building that can be built, but it's 4,200 square feet in this area right here. Right now, in the vicinity of that, where we want to put this building, we have, as an accessory use, some outside parking of boats, trailers, things of that nature. Here's what our plan is. We'd like to move forward, finish this site out, but put a larger building here and discontinue the use of discontinue having any outside parking for vehicles.
Okay.
We're going to just do away with that. This building and this building were built as temperature-controlled buildings. Our proposal is to make this one a temperature-controlled building as well. Now, since we submitted this, we did receive some comments from the town engineer, from the Fire Advisory Board, and I did have a conversation with Michelle. We have to do some tweaking on this based upon the comments. So this plan is going to change a little bit. We want to, this setback here has got to be a little bit larger, things of that nature. We also want to take a look at turning radiuses here for vehicles going around. But that's really it in a nutshell. We just want to finish off the site. We think by putting this building up and getting rid of the outside parking, make it a cleaner site. Also, the temperature control, too, is really what the consumer demand is now, too.
Are the units still accessed from the outside, or
Yes.
is it an interior access?
There's entrance doors, but there's hallways in the building where they access the
Okay.
units. So there's no driving around the back of the building. The access points are going to be on this side over here.
And there's no overhead doors or something like
No,
that? Okay.
no, there's not.
So, I'm sorry, so what happens to all the boats and the,
We're going to be discontinuing all those occupancy agreements and weaning them out and not renewing them.
how high is this building?
It's a one-story building. It's probably going to be about 15, 16 feet.
So it's going to...
It's not a
current
two-story.
buildings are only about 10 feet maybe? So it's going to be higher than the other buildings, or?
No. It's the same as the other buildings that were built.
Yeah, it'll be the same as the other 2 buildings that are built.
Yeah. I estimated 15 feet only because of the rooftop units.
No,
But
not
the-
the rooftop
no?
units, they're really
You
interior.
don't-
that's-
Everything's interior?
It's
Okay.
just the pitch of the roof, basically, that's all.
Yeah.
The other thing is the alcove there, and whatnot, it's labeled Brightlands. I mean, is that, are there kids playing like right there, or is it?
You mean in this area?
Yeah. No, I'm sorry, like midway through, I thought one of the drawings, and I don't have it with me, was labeled, Brightlands. So.
It's a daycare center, and that's where, this where we're, this is a daycare center.
Okay.
Maybe it was on a plan that was originally approved. This property right here is a daycare
We just need to come back to the mic for us.
Yeah.
Thanks.
This is a daycare facility. They've been our neighbor for years. We get along with them very well. Now, actually, with my conversation with Michelle, ordinarily your side yard setback is 10 feet, but this is a residential zone, that bumps it to 20, and we only allowed for 14. So that's one of the many changes we have to make.
So are you going to still maintain the 4,200 square feet, or will that just shrink the size of the
No,
building?
no, this building is going to be bigger than the 4,200 square feet.
Okay. 4,200 is what was originally approved?
Yes.
Okay, I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Yeah,
And
the
size of
4,200
new-
was what was originally approved. We want to
All right.
make it larger.
Okay, and the size of the building you're proposing?
This says 15.6, but I think it's going to probably be, it's going to be less.
I don't think, I think it's going to end up to be less. I'm not sure exactly what it is. Once we.
So you will shrink the building to meet the setback?
Yes.
As opposed to shift the building or, okay.
Correct.
Okay. Is there an equal amount of distance between this building and the next building up as there is between the two existing buildings?
The aisle here is the same as that aisle there.
Okay.
We just want to take a good look to make sure with this corner here that there's good turning radius and stuff. And that was one of the
gonna be the
comments.
next question, is
Yeah,
are you
that
gonna
was
be
one of
able
the
to have
comments
cars
that came out from
circulate
Mr.
through it?
Dennis's letter.
Okay.
We want to take a hard look at that to make sure that there's no issues.
Okay, and Brendan, I don't recall what kind of equipment we require to be able to circulate the site?
Yeah, the existing plan, I believe they analyzed it with the WB50, but I'm not sure of that.
Okay, and does that work for the fire equipment, the fire apparatus?
No, the fire apparatus is somewhat different, so we might need to get you the spec on that. So we can
Yeah, if you
see
could send that to
could
us,
run through too.
we can take a look at it, sure.
But we have to determine, I don't know if the industry has changed at all as to what type of vehicles would access a site like this.
You mean our customers?
Yes.
Usually it's pickup trucks and small box trucks that are accessing.
Do you have any restriction on allowing like a tractor trailer or something like that to enter the site?
I don't have a restriction on it, but it happens so infrequent, and these guys don't want to get stuck in there either, so they figure out before they get in how they're going to do this and not get stuck back there. But I haven't had one in 30 years get stuck yet, so.
So just in the, on the existing site plan, it showed the circulation, not going down the aisles. So you're not going to have this outside perimeter anymore to circulate a truck, so.
That's the original site plan.
Right. I know, but I'm just saying, the distance between the buildings might be slightly different, but that's what we need to get confirmed.
Okay.
Is there going to be like a different kind
Incidentally,
of...
too, that one of the issues raised, there's going to be no offices or bathrooms in this building. It's storage only.
Strictly storage, right?
Strictly storage
We don't have
only.
any occupants of this building?
None.
Right,
No.
okay. That's fine then.
Is there a different type of storage?
Not on purpose,
that this is
anyways.
envisioned for?
Okay.
Pardon
I mean,
me?
other than just being able to store or offer more space, is there another motivation for this, that it's like a different kind of storage? Or
No, it's the same business model.
More of the
we've been
same.
using
Okay.
for this building, and all of our other sites. It's just,
Okay.
it's what the customers like.
So the location of this building, I understand it's going to change slightly, but do you have any difference in your impervious surface? So is it all paved right now and you're going to build on where there's pavement?
No, it's not. This area right here now is not paved, but the original site plan did factor in paving that area when we looked at the impervious surface compared to the entire site, and we're below the bulk regs for the town.
Okay, so have you rechecked it for this and just made sure you're still below? I don't know if the town bulk regs changed or not since the original approval.
We'll double
Just
check
make sure it's
that.
still-
We'll double check that to make sure.
You're probably fine, but let's make sure it's right. Any other questions or comments from board members? Brendan, anything else on traffic or site circulation? I'm assuming there's no significant increase to traffic. It's not like people are in and out every day, so.
No.
We did look at that. I mean, based on the IT information, and I think we calculated it out to be like an additional 11,000 plus square feet. But even if the conservative estimates are a couple of cars in the morning and a few in the evening peak hours.
Probably at most, right?
At most.
People aren't going to visit.
That's based on historical data, but
Okay.
we wouldn't look at that as being.
But negligible as compared to what's happening right now in that area.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a significant addition of traffic.
Okay, and you already said you'd cover the turning radii for the fire apparatus so that we can double check that, and the site circulation around the building and making
Right.
sure there's access.
You
to
can
the-
send that to me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Those comments went out if you didn't get, the fire apparatus, yes, I'll
Yeah.
send that to you. Yep.
So we'll do these revisions, and we'll do a resubmittal. We're also hoping that the board may think of this as a minor amendment where we can waive any public hearing.
I think because we haven't, you're right next to a daycare. And what are your neighbors, these are all residential around you, right? Into
Yeah,
the back
there's a
of the-
single-family residence here, daycare facility here, and this is vacant, we own it.
Okay. Do you have any plans to further improve that area?
Not at this time,
Buildings?
no.
This is
We've
part of the
got-
lot, right?
Is this building in a similar location as
It's going to be on the same page.
But it's going from 4,000 feet to 15,000 feet, so
Yeah.
it's
Right.
4 times the size. Before we jump to that, Michelle, I just want to make sure, did you have anything else that we need to
Yeah,
talk
I
about?
just was
as far
wondering
as-
where people what's the parking situation out there
When
currently?
they come into, if someone is coming into the office, there's allocated parking spaces right here.
Do you know how many there are there?
I'd have to look at the plan.
5 or 6, I would say.
It looks like 5 spaces.
Yeah.
One handicap. It's 5.
And then when someone accesses their unit, they'll just drive right up to the unit itself.
But what happens in the case that it's climate controlled? You have multiple entry points, I imagine, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Do you know how many entry points you might have? On a
You know,
size building that big?
You know, until we do that unit mix, I'm going to guess there's maybe 4 in the front, 4 along the side, 1 in the front. It all depends on how, it's dependent on the emergency exits
Right.
and how it lays out.
So typically, a person would park next to one of those doors.
Yeah, they park in the
Not,
area.
not just their unit, but that door, and then walk inside and go wherever.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think it's important that before you lay out these entrances, that we run the traffic diagram to make sure that you don't potentially have a conflict where somebody may park at a door.
Yeah, no one can get around.
And strike those areas, no parking, just so you don't have conflicts.
It's been pretty,
Yeah.
it's just not busy.
Because-
We get
because
2 to 3
These, I
cars
think,
an
are,
hour.
I think this is 30 or 35 feet between the buildings, which is plenty of space for 2 cars to,
It's the curves, it's when you start
Oh.
swinging around the corners that it's going to get burned up, so I wouldn't think you'd want doors there. Because to your point, people typically pull up to their unit, but in a case like this, they're pulling up to a door.
they're pulling up to one of the
and
entry
enter the
doors. Mm-hmm.
building to then go to the unit, so it's a little different.
Again, if we get 2 cars on that property an hour, it would be highly unlikely that they're in the same spot. It's such a big property, they're pretty courteous. I've never seen a problem there, or any of the
Yeah.
properties.
It's the nature of the business. Not everybody, they store their stuff and they may not come back for a couple of months.
So there's no tree removal because it's all gravel there currently
Correct.
right now?
Yep, it's all flat, dirt, item 4, gravel, that type of thing right there. It's a solid base.
So Michelle, anything else from AKRF?
No, I mean, it has to go to the ARB because it's a commercial site.
That we anticipate.
And
But we need to know how, you have to have your elevations of the building. You
Yep.
need to finalize what size it's
We
going
have
to
to
be.
get those too, yes.
Doorways and things like that.
Yep.
If I recall correctly, from when I heard a zoning board meeting, there was an issue of garbage going over the walls at some point. Do we need to worry about additional refuse containers so that that doesn't happen?
You know,
We didn't know where that comment
I
came
don't know
from.
where they came from. No one's
We talked to the
ever
neighbors.
contacted us.
We talked to the neighbors, and the neighbors didn't have a problem.
Yeah, the neighbors kind of followed us out of the meeting.
Yeah, the neighbors were at the zoning meeting, and
It was on
went outside and
it
talked to
was on
them.
the industrial side, from what I recollect. Not on the residential side, but
Right.
on the industrial side, there was a complaint.
Over here?
Yeah, that's where the complaint
Right.
stemmed from.
Wow, okay.
So that's why I'm just wondering,
Yeah.
we need to take that into consideration
Yeah.
now, especially
I don't
because
look
of the
at
size
dumpster-
of this building.
The dumpster is actually very large, and I gotta be perfectly honest with you, most of our properties, we've removed the dumpsters, we just don't wanna encourage people leaving their stuff around.
Maybe some
And
signage
we'll
might
pick
be
it
the
up.
answer to that.
If it's there, we just.
Please use dumpsters, maybe some signage addresses that.
Okay.
Michelle, anything else? Peter, anything from Morris?
Joe, I'm sure will just work with him on the drainage, just what has to be put in.
Drainage, okay.
You know, Pete, some of that might have been put in There's something
Yeah,
on the side of it.
it's kind of hard to tell what's in and what's not
You're
in.
not gonna, yeah, I know, won't
So-
bother you, right?
We'll reflect that on the plan.
And then, behind, the building facing, the daycare, I assume the water's just gonna be coming off, the peak roof back in that area. So you're not gonna have any gutters on the building, right? Are there gutters?
Well, I like to put gutters on, is that a problem?
No?
No, generally we do.
Oh, you do?
Someone
Okay.
wants to stand underneath and
Yeah.
get rid
Yeah,
of them, so there's
okay.
gutters on the rest of them.
All right, so then those gutters are piped right into the underground storm drainage system that you're gonna have, so.
And just when you're with the ARB, make sure you have elevations of all four sides of the building, because you do have very close neighbors now, if you're only 20 feet off the.
Just to give you a heads up, what we do, just so you know, there's fake doors on them, they're not real roll-up doors, just so it looks a little bit more uniform.
Okay.
But there will be no functioning doors except for the swing doors.
Okay.
But they're heated.
All right. Scott, anything else for you?
Well, I just think we need to maybe get the comments back from the FAB and just make sure that they're satisfied with access around that new building, being that it's
The
heated.
FAB did submit comments.
The
Did we
FAB
get
had
those
two
back?
comments. The first was the knockbox to be installed at the
Yep.
front entrance, and the second was that an access code for entry through the security gate, and a plan is accepted with no other
Yeah,
requirements.
and that's already been done.
That was there.
That's
fine.
already in
Yeah, no,
place.
I know you said
It's
you've
just
done that
a
in the beginning, but,
carryover comment.
they looked at it on August 4th, so it's a recent comment.
Okay.
Okay. So, Michelle, let's come back now to, it's a building, it's 4 times the size of the original plan, give or take 3.5 times the size. Is this, I don't know what the boundaries as far as minor site plan amendment would be.
I don't think you can do it as a minor site plan amendment because of the size. It's not just the size, the problem is that the original site plan had, the other buildings were also smaller, so I can't remember, I calculated at one point, so it's an additional square footage overall. I don't think it'll be a major circulation or seeker review or anything like that, but I do think we need to notify the surrounding property owners.
So, no circulation for lead agency, but we do need to have a public hearing, or do we circulate for lead agency to just a few interested parties?
I think we need to circulate because of the drainage.
Okay. All right. We're talking about making some changes to reduce the size of the building. I'm assuming it's not going to come back 2 stories or anything like that.
No, it's gonna be a
Well, I'm saying that because if we say something tonight and then you come back with something dramatically different,
I understand.
you're kind of putting yourself back at square one as
Yeah,
far
no,
as.
the changes, it's going to be a one-story building, that's not going to change. The only change is I think the building's going to be slightly smaller than what we're showing here.
Okay,
It will not be larger.
okay. So Michelle, sorry.
We're
Are we okay to?
We're just talking stormwater regulations.
Okay. Okay, so what we're talking about is the building, as it's presented right now, will likely shrink in size.
Right.
So it'd be a lesser impact. So are we okay to circulate, even though all
We can't circulate until they actually have the final plan, because we want to circulate with whatever the plan is going to be, I think, really.
Okay, so we're going to need you back for one more discussion. Just
What
bring
is
it.
that?
Excuse me?
When can you get us on the agenda next?
It depends on when you submit to us. We put you
How
on the
far
next
in advance
available
is
agenda,
it?
but we need our professionals to have time to look at the updated plans, so,
The end of the month for the 15th meeting?
right.
Right.
Which is, yes, September 15th.
Okay.
Yes.
End of August, 9/15. And if it's after that, we go into
Right.
October? Okay.
So they can go count it.
Do
Okay.
you have other questions for us or anything else?
No, actually, the board was great. We were anxious to hear what your comments were and concerns so that we can address everything and get through this. We want to get going and finish off the site.
Okay, great.
We're a lot less talkative at the end of the
So are we. Al Capelli took,
Again, thank you
Al
for
Capelli took
sitting
the last of my
through the entire
window.
meeting with us. We appreciate that. All right, have a good evening, guys.
Thank you.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
second.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
If they were.